Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdsNeat on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
South Carolina with Columbia down the way.
And sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody?
Right here, big.
Yeah. This here podcast, you can find us at the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast virtual place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. You can also find us recording live every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on youtube.com/the Kliq Nation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Thank you for joining us, whether you are live or later after the fact, or whether you ask any questions or not. We appreciate you.
Absolutely. Leave us 5-star reviews and make sure to click and subscribe however you find us. Either you're listening to us or watching us on a stream.
Exactly. Hey, see, we got somebody in the chat already. So we are actually, a week away from She-Hulk.
Wow.
And I guess on that, and I knew I forgot to put something in the lineup, but apparently they moved that a day, so it's coming out on Thursdays.
Correct. I did see that, and that's going to make things a little more difficult on us.
Yeah.
Because, I'll have to squeeze in time to watch it that morning or that evening or on the way home. Because it's just that's just cutting it a little too close for comfort for us.
Just a little bit. Like, granted, yeah, it would definitely be out well before we record, but it's still
it's all about making the time to watch it, and that's
exactly.
difficult
And absorb it.
Right.
So, but you know what? We'll see what happens come that time. Nevertheless, we are going to start off with books. In fact, we're going to start off with Iron Man number 22.
Yes, so this latest volume of Iron Man number 22 is written by Christopher Cantwell with art by Angel Unzueta. Colors are by Frank Darmada and letters by our very favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So in this issue, something that Roddykat reminded me of, and it's always been at the forefront of my mind when I read this book, because we know some of the parallels that Cantwell is drawing to a previous storyline, but it didn't, when Roddykat mentioned it to me in passing, just as we were choosing what to start the show with, it didn't, it just didn't click. For whatever reason, when he mentioned it, it didn't click to me. But then I remember when I was reading this, the parallels are so stark, no pun intended. Ha ha.
Ha ha.
But the parallels are definitely there to a previous storyline that is very, very aged. Let's put it that way.
Boy, I'm too old for this shit.
So, I'll let Roddykat take it from here, but I will say that everything down to some of the guest cameo characters that we get in this issue. Someone named Clay and a big green giant, as it were.
And not a jolly one.
Yeah, exactly. And not the Hulk. Is all straight out of this previous storyline. Take it away, Roddykat.
Yes, indeed. In fact, so after the events of last issue, we find Tony and Rhodey basically getting geared up for whatever this operation entails, which, as Agent 7 alluded to, kind of has shades of a previous Iron Man event, or story arc rather, not event, Armor Wars, which I'm pretty sure it's been revisited a couple of times already in various media. Like, I know there was definitely another one in comic book form, and is about to be revisited in the MCU via a show coming up, probably next year, I think, because they never did say what date that was going to be actually.
Right, and ultimately we may find out that date at D23 or very soon after.
Quite
so, but continue, please.
So yeah, so we have like I said, we have Rhodey and Tony kind of discussing things, putting things together, getting set up for the inevitable confrontation with the aforementioned big green another big green armored figure in the Marvel universe that's plagued Iron Man at various times, that being the Titanium Man.
Right.
And also they are joined by, which this was a pull definitely, which had me thinking, I was like, wow, they really are doing Armor Wars again. The aforementioned person named Clay, because Mama called him Clay, and we're gonna call him Clay, because that's his name. But who goes by the name of Force, who I guess was a villain at one point, but not really, or something. I can't remember what his deal was, but I know he showed up in Armor Wars.
Right. I mean, just prior to the original Armor Wars, my understanding is that Force armor, he came in as initially as an opponent to Iron Man, but like so many initially misguided villains, he sees the light.
Yeah, like Hawkeye.
Right.
Which, if folks don't know, he was originally an Iron Man villain, weirdly enough. Anyway, that's beside the point.
As was Black Widow.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, she was the one who sent Hawkeye up against Tony, which was funny. So yeah, but yeah, so there is that, and I had a nice little chuckle with myself because I was wondering, it was like, okay, so we see Clay here. I wonder if we're going to see Force Works.
Oh, I doubt it. I hope not. Because obviously this parallel storyline predates the existence of Force Works, but we even got a guest appearance by another character that made a fairly famous appearance in the original Armor.
Absolutely, I was
Wars, that being Captain America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like, I wish I had thought about it at the time, but then I heard I would have had to close the book. I was like, great, all we needed now was a confrontation with Cap, and well, here we go. It wasn't a confrontation, but he does show up here, which they feel like does feel like they're kind of setting up a potential because of a kind of a line that says, it was like, well, Captain Patsy's probably going to be upset about what's going on here because there's a little bit of subterfuge coming out the end of this book.
Right, they're being kept out of the loop on purpose.
Yep. So I suspect that's going to be revisited because, that's kind of how the beats of Armor Wars were. I actually did not expect to see Cap, but I should have, honestly. Right. So I was like, oh yeah, you know what? Sure, why not? It makes sense. And it makes sense. It was like for him to be a little like, Rhodey, you got something to say? You got something to ask him about? He was like, nope.
Cap knows what's up.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't need Matt Murdock's super senses to figure out when somebody's not telling the entire truth.
Right. And Cap has been shown to be a little naive at some point, but he's not stupid. So at some point, I'm sure that's going to come back up, and I'm kind of slightly looking forward to that, to what end. But yeah, so they're gearing up for this operation, which, like I said, calls for a little bit of a subterfuge. Whether a Titanium Man was in on it or not, don't know. I halfway suspect yes, but who's to say? But this issue starts off the chain of events that is going into this operation that is reminiscent of Armor Wars because of some group that is buying and selling really dangerous, like high-tech weapons. This time, not Stark's weapons, but just in general. But it's definitely technology based. So that's where the impetus is, and we get the reemergence of the stealth suit, which we hadn't seen in a good minute, or at least of this version of the stealth suit.
Right. It's not the first time that this particular concept has been, just super powered weapons being proliferated through arms dealers. In the pages of Wolverine, we've seen something similar. When in recent stories where somebody was trying to sell a severed Wolverine hand with claws, in an auction together with other, with like Mandroid armor. So, ultimately, this isn't new. This isn't a new path that Cantwell is going down, but obviously we know that this is very similar to and drawing parallels to the OG Armor Wars. Ultimately, I think this is going to be fun to see where the twists and turns are. Obviously, this is really the opening salvo in the story. So we'll see how this goes and see what changes Cantwell has in store for us as the readers who are familiar with some of Tony's backstory.
Mm-hmm. As we have seen, Cantwell kind of revisit during his run. So, I thought one humorous thing also in the beginning of the issue was Tony on the plane talking to the old lady. I don't know if you remember that part, but that kind of kicked us off. Was that this issue or was that last issue?
No, that was the previous.
No, that was last issue. Oh, sorry. I want to bring this up anyway because I forgot to mention that. But yeah, last issue. It was at the beginning of last issue. That's right. And I'm saying that because I read last issue before I read this issue, so that's why it's running together.
It makes all the sense.
Yeah. So what started this whole thing was Tony's on this plane trip and he was talking to this old lady who happens to bring up some former college students. Another. That ends up being another armored figure rival in nemesis.
And a stretchy figure.
Yes, and a stretchy figure.
An armored figure and a stretchy figure. If you haven't figured out who we're referring to by now, this show may not be for you.
Right, and she was like, yeah, he was like, he was burnt pretty bad, but I wonder if he's probably picked himself up by now, and this and that. And Tony's like, I know who you're talking about. you can even see this was like, I know who you're talking about. Like, yeah, sure, he probably has. So that was kind of funny, but it ends up being something to do with some. I don't know if you want to call him a hijacker, but basically he there was a theft upon the plane that ended up causing Tony to kind of go after this dude who gave him a run for his money. To his credit, that got this whole ball rolling. Going into this issue. So I would say that if you are going to start in this arc, the last issue would probably be the one to start off. Although you can kind of come in here, Coach.
Right. I mean, you could pick it up here because at the end of the day, I think like I said, I think the ball really does start rolling with this issue because we get what Roddykat was referring to as not just Stark tech, but just weapons, super powered paraphernalia and weapons in general. And we understand that one of Iron Man's oldest and longest villains, his weapons are basically tied to the center of the storyline, and it's in the preview panel, the preview page for the next issue. It's interesting because it kind of ties into, I kind of forgot what happened to this character. I need to Google that because they talk about this character's fate, and I'm like, when did that happen? That was a couple of years ago.
Right. And in a slight parallel MCUification of this character, the paraphernalia that this character normally would wear has come up for auction. However, there's another version of that are floating around And I don't know if that's what they were alluding to, or I think they were alluding to this particular version and not what is floating around in another a Marvel hero has.
Oh no, they're definitely talking. They're definitely talking about the old school,
right?
So because like I said, it's in the page, the preview page for the next issue. It's literally, the stealth armor with these, ornaments on.
Right.
And,
but there was also, I believe, that the box with them in them showed up with
exactly. So ultimately, it's interesting. And as I, the only point is I guess my final point is I just didn't understand or remember what that character's fate was.
Right. Same here. Because when they mentioned them, it's like, yeah, so and so, such and such a thing happened. I mean, actually, I won't say what it is, but I'm like, yeah, so and so and so. Like, when, how, what? And I almost looked myself, and I didn't, because normally I would have. But so I think you and I both will probably be looking up that after this show. But that being said, that was Iron Man 22 to kick us off here. It was a pretty good read, I would say. Let's see. What do we want to go to next? This is probably the big book of the week. Or we could start with, or we can kind of go around it.
Which book?
Edge of Spider-Verse.
I don't know if that's the big book, but I think it's the kickoff for this new Spider-Verse event. And if there's one thing that I would say to anyone who's looking to be a comic book speculator, is that if there's going to be something important happening coming out of the Spider-Verse books, you may want to take a look at these Edge of Spider-Verse books first, because you sometimes get the intros to some interesting characters and characters who prove to be influential and important later on. The main character that came out of these Edge of Spider-Verse books is Spider-Gwen.
Yep.
So if you're looking into maybe getting the first appearance of a character or two and hoping to quote unquote strike gold with the first appearance comic, you may want to take a look at this. But let me get to the credits on this book. So it's an anthology of 4 stories. The writers, I'm just going to put the writers out there first, because this is how Roddykat, because I was lazy. I didn't even type in my creators. I just said it's an anthology of 4 stories. The writers in sequence are Dan Slott, Alex Segura, Carla Pacheco, and DJ Bryant. Art is by Martin Coccolo, Caio Majado, Pere Perez, and Dustin Weaver. Colors are by Brian Reber, and letters are by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So I'll tell you that what's interesting about this is it's a mixture of old and new Spider characters, right? So the new characters that we get here are a Scot who is apparently in the colonial, in the colonies, in the U.S. colonies, prior to independence and prior to the war for independence. So, that's one character. We also get a revamp or a rejiggering, I guess, of the Aranya character, fresh off of her appearance in Black Widow. She's now got a new super suit.
Well, technically, we have to the old suit.
Oh, is it the old suit?
It is the old suit, yeah, before she
I'm just not that familiar with the character.
Yeah. Which I was like, why did she even have to go back to that? Well, I mean, it's a new version of the old suit, I should say, but definitely it's the old suit. I'm just like, why did she go back to that? What was, But anyway, keep going. So,
right. The third story is a pretty silly trip with a spider that is a Tyrannosaurus Rex in a world where it's still very much prehistoric times. And the last story is based on it centers upon Spider Noir. So, it's a mix of old and new in this issue. I just had a few comments, and I'll hand it to Roddykat. He may have some more in-depth things to say. I wanted to mention that, Madam Web, the current version of Madam Web, is running around gathering the troops, much like she has in previous Spider-Verse stories. We also have this Spider-Rex character. I think there's toys based on this character now.
Yes, there are. In fact, we got some news on that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought it was funny that I was like, wait, I just saw a toy on this. Did they literally drop the toy right before they dropped the character in the comics? Holy cow.
Pretty much.
And finally, one thing I wanted to mention is that that Spider Noir story. Actually, two things I wanted to mention. That Spider Noir story basically is what reminded me about something I heard on a podcast. I heard it on one, I think it was This Week in Marvel, that it was Aranya who introduced the whole idea of the spider totem into the Spider-Man, into the comic book universe.
Right.
And that transferred over into the JMS, the J. Michael Straczynski Spider-Man stuff in the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that because I wasn't following Aranya.
Right. And a matter of fact, I vaguely remember around that time, but just like you, I didn't really have that kind of working knowledge of it. But I did do some research when I was reading this book. I'm like, wait a minute, I do remember this old costume, but I don't remember the context, of whatever. And then, it brought up the Spider Totem stuff. Right.
So I was very, very humbled to learn that, because I always blamed Straczynski for introducing that into, and I've said it on the show. I just wasn't a fan. But now that I understand that it was actually something that was introduced by, I presume, another writer into the Spider-Man mythos, through Aranya, that now I sort of understood how that concept was integrated into the rest of the quote unquote Spider-Verse. So, obviously, Straczynski took it, ran with it, and then Slott took it and ran the whole way.
Oh,
he took it the rest of the way to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to say that, because that concept is the totem and the totemistic story is carried forth, throughout this book, and especially into the Spider Noir story that ends up as the closer to this anthology book. I wanted to just mention that it's interesting. I was humbled, like I said, I was humbled to learn that it was because of the concepts surrounding Aranya's origin that we got this whole spider totem thing. So it's interesting. It's always interesting to pick up on things that, that happen and you just miss them, and you just didn't, you misapprehended or misunderstood what was happening. And it's always interesting to see things clearer now that the rain is gone. Shout out to Jimmy Cliff. Take it over.
Okay, nice. Starting with the musical references.
It starts early.
Yeah. Let's see. The whole, I've already said my piece about the whole Aranya thing, but it is that is what that is. And as Agent 70 said, yes, we have the current version of Madam Web doing the running round. I know. Once again, reading this has me wanting to kind of go back to actually read Spider-Verse, which I realize is a lot. And Spider-Geddon, because I think Aranya had a part in that, but I don't think any of, and Spider Island, now that I think about it, of that whole thing, because I think some of that might be coming into play, because there was a thing that started in her story, bringing up something which I assumed had something to do with the going back to the original Spider Totem stuff with some wasps. Which sound like they're going to be playing a part of this Spider-Verse thing, and I'm sitting here like, wait, what does Janet Van Dyne have to do with this? Has nothing to do with her, that we know of, but but we definitely do have mysterious figures in the background that are skulking around, seemingly hunting new followers and or possibly spiders. Looks like they have claimed one already. And going to that Spider Rex story, I'm sitting here like, that was kind of silly. I suspect that character's going to. I don't know if that character's going to have a whole lot of legs. No pun intended, because it's a target. What could I say? Arms, But it's an amusing story. The way it was set up, I'm like, all right, bravo to them for that. The Spider Noir story, I tried to read it in Nicolas Cage's voice, admittedly, but it doesn't necessarily read like that. At least not because of Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse. And it doesn't really read like that, but it is as wordy as you would think. And it's not the first time Spider Noir has shown up in the last couple of years, now that I think about it. Or maybe it's just me reading something with him in it. But nevertheless, like I said, we just got a kickoff story, or a set of kickoff stories. And I assume the rest of the Edge of Spider-Verse books are going to do the same thing. Like I think this is like in the what's coming next after the books after this book ended. I mean, after this the issue ended, we got a whiff of a couple of more stories and a couple more characters that they're going to center stuff around, including another new character. Which, Spider-Verse introduced some new Spider characters. This one's going to do the same thing. So, will we get to number 5 and get the breakout character of this one? Or has it started off with the Spider-X and they're putting their hands there? This is where they're putting their chips into.
It's isn't there an anniversary for Jurassic Park this year? That's why they put out that last Jurassic World movie.
Probably.
So.
Yeah. So, nevertheless, like I said, if you're interested in Spider-Verse related stuff, here you go. This is the first one on that, so you can get in on the ground floor. Unless you don't know anything outside of that movie, then it's might have to seek out some the old books for that. Like I might. I was also thinking of putting Spider-Verse, because I don't think we have it in our doc for event books to go over if we should ever revisit that stuff. But that's also, it's kind of long, so it's kind of a hard proposition. Actually, it's not that long from the reading order, but I mean, it's just picking out stuff that's...
we would cut out we would cut out most of the tie-ins.
Right.
I'm pretty sure there's a pretty straightforward reading order for Into the Spider-Verse.
Seemingly, yeah.
So, but
like it's pretty much the Edge of Spider-Verse book, and then the main book, which is only a couple of issues, and then there's a couple of ties-ins that might have some.
Well, I mean, I think it goes mostly through. I think there's like an Alpha and Omega issue, and then I think it mostly goes through Amazing, if I'm not mistaken. But I could be wrong. It's been a while since I looked at it.
Right.
I don't know. We'd have to look it up through our very handy dandy Marvel Unlimited, who is not a sponsor.
Right. Well, I went to the wiki and looked up the reading order on that. It was probably like 8 to 10 books, or out minus the Edge of Spider-Verse books. So.
Gotcha.
Anyway, what's next? You want to do one more before we go to wrap it?
We could do the X books and then we'll go to rapid fire.
Sure. So I guess if we were going to do this in order, we should go Immortal first then.
Sure. All right, Immortal X-Men number 5 is written by Kieron Gillen, with art by Michelle Bandini, colors by David Curiel, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowell. So this issue focuses upon a character that has not had much focus on him in a long, long time. I would say for the better part of 30 years. You don't think?
No, you're probably about right, actually.
Yeah, I don't think this character has had much focus since the earliest days of the adjective-less X-Men book, which was launched by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee back in 1991. So the character we are referring to is Exodus.
Not the Bob Marley album.
What's that?
And not the Bob Marley album.
Right, or the second book in the Bible.
Exactly.
So, but there's definitely some religious overtones here in this issue. I am just looking to pull up my copy, and actually, you wanna lead on this, and then I'll pick up.
Sure. Broad strokes. This is an AXE tie-in. Actually, the first of 2 from this week, because technically Legion, which I don't think you read.
I did. I just didn't list it because there wasn't much in Legion that tied in.
Well, funny enough, kind of is when we get to Red, but they also footnoted at the beginning of X-Men Red, so
Right.
it's but it's something
Exactly.
that
That's what I was gonna say. They don't really. There's not much of a crossover. That's my point.
Right. So, but yeah, so this is like I just said, this is an Exodus focused issue. I guess this is around the events, or set during the events of Judgment Day book from what, last week?
Right, number 1.
Yeah. So basically, the game is afoot. The Eternals launched their first strike attack, which was the Unimind, but the X-Men are sitting around at the Quiet Council, kind of talking about it, not realizing they're already under attack. And this is them, 1, finding that out, and 2, dealing with that.
Right.
So with the opening salvo of the Eternals, and like I said, it's Exodus focused, which again slightly makes me want to go read what was it, Messiah Complex? Was that his big thing, or was it before that?
Well, he does make a return during Messiah Complex, because as you can see in this issue, and this is a mild spoiler, he does have a thing about Hope Summers.
Right.
So he does make a reappearance in the X titles around that time. Ultimately, though, his big thing was when Magneto, when he was an acolyte to Magneto.
Okay,
That's what I was referring to when we were first introduced to Exodus.
Right.
In that first initial run of X-Men, of the adjectiveless X-Men, that is.
Right, and some of that gets brought up here. So if
there's a recap. There's a nice recap element to this story, because of what we were just saying, that this character really has not had much time in the spotlight at all. And because of the nature of Krakoa, we're getting to see how some of these characters who were, maybe outright villains at one point, and then they became somewhere neutral, and now because they're being incorporated into the fabric of Krakoa, we're starting to see them, working together with the traditional X-Men hero types. So ultimately, that's what was great about this issue. I really did appreciate the flashbacks intermingled with what was going on at the present time, because it was informative, and it definitely helped to reestablish where this character sits in the X-Men story and where he is now. It makes you think that it's a good thing that the Quiet Council had so many telepaths on it at the same time.
Yeah. Coincidence? I think not.
Right, exactly.
I guess it's worth noting that we do get some background information that I don't think was previously known, also in relation to this character and a couple of others on the opposing. Well, one of the opposing factions. Which again, I'm sitting reading all this, and it's like, so what does the Avengers have to do with this? Like, I know they're like cops, but it's like this is pretty much an Eternal X-Men thing. Like, what is?
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't even know if they're cops as so much as referees at this point,
and not doing anything else. They're not even doing that,
right? Because they're not on site. Right. They haven't made it there to intervene. So they're almost acting like they were like their original mission in the 90s, being like UN peacekeeper types. Remember that?
Right. Yeah. But again, and even in that, they're not doing a very good job, because they clearly are not up on what's going on here.
Definitely. I wanted to mention that every time they mentioned that the Unimind was attacking them, all I could hear in my head was Unibeam,
Unibeam.
from
Yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom.
Yep.
Because as an avid player of Marvel vs. Capcom in all of its incarnations, I definitely, as a Street Fighter veteran, I definitely had my fireball motion down, so I could whip out that Unibeam like nobody's business. So I definitely heard that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I still hear it a lot because every once in a while, I'm a Neanderthal, folks. I've never gotten a PS4 or PS5. I still, every once in a while, turn on my PS3 just so I can play Marvel vs. Capcom, like the not the most recent edition, but the ones before that.
Yeah, that one wasn't great.
Right, but the one before that was pretty good. So I was very happy. I'm very happy to just turn it on and play it because it's fun.
Right. Agreed. Hey, sometimes you kind of got to, because it's fun. That Turtle game also, on a very side note, is pretty good if you want some nostalgia. Anywho, I think that's pretty much it for Immortal X-Men. I think, like I said, this was the opening salvo from the Eternals, and it at the end of this, it seemed like
what I was going to say.
well.
It's not the it's the opening salvo of a two-pronged attack, which will lead us into the next book that we talk about.
Right, which is what I basically was saying. Like, it seemed like it was like it might have been dealt with, but then we go into the next book, which is X-Men Red number 5.
Mm-hmm. X-Men Red number 5 is written by Al Ewing, with art by Stefano Caselli, colors by Federico Blee, and letters by VC's Ariana Mayer. So in this book, we see what happens in some of the panels that we were treated to in the pages of AXE Judgment number 1, where Uranos has essentially laid waste to Arakko. And we see what happens just prior to his arrival on Arakko and what is happening when he is absolutely kicking everybody's butt left, right, and upside down.
Think Thanos and Frieza all in one, and you pretty much got this dude.
I mean, it's pretty bad. Like, laying waste to people like Legion and Cable,
right,
and almost Magneto.
I'm going to say you pretty much got that one too, but I think there was some outside intervention on that one.
You think? I thought that was I thought that was a pretty great panel at the end.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's my click of the week. As soon as I read that, I was like, that's pretty cool. I was amped when I was reading that. I was like, oh yeah, that's it.
Right. Yeah, this was a pretty action based book. Like, yeah, there was some exposition going on during the time, but it was pretty much awash with battlefield activity, usually one-sided. Like, it was some attempts made and undone very quickly.
Yep.
In the course of this, leading us into the last panel of this book, which, yeah, I don't, like I said, I'm not entirely sure, because it seemed like near the end of the book that might have been due to some intervention, but I also don't know, or because it very well could have been just, we'll find out, obviously, that it could have been,
Right. I suspect not, but you may be right. I'm not going to say that either of us is right. So, we're simply guessing here at this point, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
I wanted to mention that, our comparisons that we made earlier to Thanos or Frieza, like literally just like laying waste to scores of superpowered beings, beings that we presume are powerful, like Legion. Like, I was like, wow. I was like, seriously?
Right. And the scores of Arakkans who have pretty much been at war for like thousands of years or whatever the case may be, who, some of which are not presumably presented as being no slouches themselves, pretty much get decimated.
Right. They're all dead. Like, talk about taking them all off the board. Right. Although I do have to say there's a couple of cool panels here involving some of the characters who are adjacent to Arakko. Mm-hmm. One of them being Richard Rider Nova.
Right.
I appreciated that. I know that I've done a little bit of service to the Richard Rider character when it comes to Roddykat's appreciation for him. And when I was reading that, I was like, oh, that's nice. good for Al Ewing giving Rich Rider a nice little shout out there.
Right. But I was like, why is he here? Like, like this is not his affair. He has no stake in this game. I recognize he was there because of some stuff in the past, but I was like, why is he there now?
In the previous issue, he was above. You know, because remember, Arakko is the seat of the government, or the seat of the voice of Soul, right?
Right.
Storm seat, right? So that's why there's all these visitors from other planets and whatnot there, and that's what he was there for that meeting.
Right.
So this all happened with with him still on site.
But
so I kind of appreciate that. I was like, oh look, Nova's still here. That's cool.
But also I was like, I kind of feared for him, even though I was like, well, he's not a mutant, he's not a focal point. They're not good. He's not. Al Ewing wouldn't just kill off Nova in a book that he had no stake in, would he?
I would be curious to see him go up against Uranos, because of the Thanos comparison.
Yeah, he has gone. He has spent a few minutes toe to toe with old Thanos, so I would imagine.
Maybe we're doing a little foreshadowing here, folks.
I doubt it. It was like I said. I feel like they're not gonna put this dude's on the very outside of this whole thing. He's not an Avenger. He's not an Eternal or an X-Men. So he's not like he just happened to be there. Like he's there for a reason. Clearly, because otherwise he wouldn't be there. But I don't think they're gonna give him that.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Maybe he will come in for the Avengers side. Because now that I think about it, I guess he kind of wasn't an Avengers adjacent character at one point. So who's to say? That being the case, I guess we can.
I think we can go into rapid fire now.
I think so. Yeah.
All right, let me spin it up, folks.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, I think we've probably got like an equal number of books.
Yeah,
each.
but we definitely, I think we only have like one tying us together here though, and I'm actually surprised you read
Moon
one
Knight?
book. Yeah.
All right, so let me lead with Moon Knight, and we just quickly discuss that.
Okay.
Moon Knight number 14 is written by Jed McKay, with art by Alessandro Cappuccio, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, and letters by VC's Corey Pettit. So, in a story that kind of echoes what we saw in the Moon Knight MCU Disney Plus series, we actually have the three distinct personalities, or the distinct identities that inhabit Mark Spector's head, having it out with each other in this issue, all while these two assassins, who I don't know if we'd ever been introduced to these characters before, are out to take on. One of them looks, disturbingly a lot like Sabretooth.
Yeah, I thought about
that. While these two assassins are basically beating the snot out of Moon Knight, the inner turmoil between these three identities of Mark Spector are figuring out what's going on and what to do with themselves. Luckily for Moon Knight, he is rescued in a sense by Tigra and
Hunter's Moon.
the other Fist of Khonshu. What's his name?
Hunter's Moon.
Hunter's Moon. Thank you. And ultimately, that's where we find ourselves at the end of the issue. Do you have anything to add?
One particular click of the week. Two, shout out to Mark's multitasking abilities, like in the middle of a fight, and then having an intervention on him with his other aspects while in the middle of a big fight, even though he was kind of sort of losing the fight. But shout out to trying to multitask, because that's kind of what it feels like sometimes.
All righty. Next up for me is, I guess I'll finish out my Marvel stable of books and move on to the rest. Last for me is Ghost Rider number 5. It's written by Benjamin Percy, with art by Corey Smith, inks by Oren Jr., colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So it's a Ghost Rider book. Eventually there's going to be a race involved, and this race is, kind of silly. but it's very brutal. Some of the guest stars that you see here in very short cameo appearances are just super silly, but it's meant to be all in good fun. Ultimately, we have a little bit of movement on the story because we finally see who is behind some of what has been ailing and the word I guess would be persecuting Johnny Blaze during the 5 issues so far in this series. You know, we've seen this demonic wound that he's been nursing on the back of his head that always makes me, you know, that gives me the creeps because the art is so well done that I'm just like, ooh, you know, it makes me kind of self-consciously rub my head. Ultimately, we find out who is behind it all. It's not someone unexpected at all, but we'll be glad to see what happens in the next issue. Okay. Next up is Batman number 126. It's written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Jorge Jimenez, colors by Tomo Mori, and letters by I wanted to say VC, but here he is an independent contractor, freelancer, letters by Clayton Cowles. So in this issue, you know, and what we've been seeing in Zdarsky's run so far, it's only been 1 issue. So this is the 2nd issue of Zdarsky's run on Batman. There are some hints that Batman, you know, the events of the last several arcs have been catching up to Batman. He may be slowing down a bit, reflecting a little bit of his age and reflecting a little bit of his need for the Bat family to intervene on his behalf. We're also getting some hints that this robotic menace that he is up against is not all that we think it is. We definitely think that it's related to Batman in some way. And we get a weird costume change at the end of this issue, which is, you know, a little bit on the disturbing side, but I am not familiar enough with the Batman mythos to recognize where this might be a pull from. It might be a pull. I'm just not that familiar with it. So if you are familiar with it and you're recognizing where Zdarsky might be going with this, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or Insta and let me know. Next up is Dark Crisis.
I cannot believe you read this.
Dark Crisis number 3. I was just curious. Dark Crisis number 3 is written by Joshua Williamson with pencils by Daniel Sampere, with inks by Daniel Sampere, Daniel Enriquez, and Danny Mickey, colors by Alejandro Sanchez, and letters by another, apparently a lettering python, Tom Napolitano. Listen to me profile people based on their last names. So, spoiler alert. If you have not been keeping up with Dark Crisis, the Justice League are dead. Deader than dead. Or are they? Exactly, quote unquote. Black Adam, being Black Adam, is basically trying to muster a new Justice League, and he is not having any sort of fun dealing with the youngins who have been left in the wake of the Justice League being essentially killed off. The Titans have also suffered their own losses because the villains, once they in the wake of the killing of the Justice League at the behest of Crying Pariah, because, you know, it's always Crying Pariah when there's a crisis like involved.
Pariah.
What's that?
More like Pariah.
Crying Pariah. Not exactly on fire. Shout out to ODB.
There you go.
We always bring the music references here, folks. Rest in peace, ODB. What I was saying was that Black Adam is, you know, just doing his Black Adam thing, being, you know, we need to kill, we need to, you know, take final, you know, we can't put people in jail, we need to, you know, do the whole anti-hero thing, you know, rah, you know, kill everybody. And all the young legacy heroes just not having it. And who shows up but some old folks. And they're not technically old, but they're just, you know, yet another DC supergroup that has a very long lineage and a long history, and it is time that they step to the forefront. So that is where this book essentially leaves the heroes. Meanwhile, we find out that the villains are, you know, assembling for their own next strike, and the Green Lanterns are off doing their own thing, trying to take the fight to Pariah out in space. So we will see where this goes. Black Adam does, in fact, reach out to people who might be more willing to play along his own rules, along his own guidelines, and you know what that might mean. And that is it for Dark Crisis number 3. Let's see here. What else do I have? Oh, we go back to the streets of Killadelphia. Oh, there's another music reference there, folks. Killadelphia number 24 is written, it's an image book. It's written by Rodney Barnes with art by Jason Sean Alexander, with an art assist by Herman Aramuspe, colors by Luis Nict, and letters by Marshall Dillon. So believe it or not, this is not the ultimate or penultimate issue, but what it is in fact the ultimate issue of this latest arc of Killadelphia. So I don't know if Rodney Barnes has a plan for this book going beyond the next arc that will make up a trade paperback, let's say 6 issues, because this is issue 24. Let's say we make it all the way up to issue 30, so it'll be a 6-issue arc, and you get a nice tidy 30 issues, making up 5 trade paperbacks. You know, 5 trade paperbacks of 6 issues each. That might be the formula here. So I don't know, but ultimately, if you've been following the story up until now, this is a very effective issue. I really enjoyed it because it puts everyone into play that is on the field. We do see a few characters get taken off the field, but we see another character possibly having a change of heart because he is currently fighting for the dark side. You know, there is definitely a dark side and a light side here in this, and it's hard to figure out who you should be rooting for because everyone is a supernatural monster. Ultimately, this is a very effective book because there's plenty of moral gray areas to explore. There's plenty of gore. There's plenty of supernatural action. So if you're looking for something like that with a twist of Hamilton thrown in there, then don't throw away your shot. Oh, there's another music reference, folks. And take a chance on Killadelphia. And I think that is it for me, folks.
How could you ever say no to this?
Awesome! Wow!
All right. So for for myself, the black. Well, no, we're not doing Black Adam this week. Sorry. Batman White Knight White Knight presents Red Hood, which is weird because every time I hear like White Knight presents, I think of Donald Duck presents, which I know that's a reference that not a lot of people is going to get. So yeah, this is another miniseries set in the, I guess, the pinned Murphyverse. I did not realize that's what it was called, but it makes a whole lot of sense. But yeah.
Oh yeah.
So, which, by the way, is a good universe. I personally, because I think I don't read a lot of Batman at all. This is probably some of the better Batman stories because it's not really even centered around Batman a whole lot of the time, but it's just set in the world of. You might have something to do with it. In this case, this is a spin-off mini-series that is starring Jason Todd, who in this world was the first Robin, not the second, or yes, not the second. So basically him and Dick flip spaces. And in this issue, I guess this is a kind of a this kind of goes back in time a little bit because the current miniseries kind of already has Jason Todd established in a certain place where he was. This is kind of going back a little bit, but kind of also current, because it starts off with a memory of that famous meeting between him and the Joker, but it doesn't necessarily play out the same way as it did in the Prime Universe. But it sets in motion how Jason feels about certain things, and I guess led to the downfall of the relationship between him and Bruce, as we get alluded to here. But then we cut to the current the current time, where he runs across this this young lady who's already in a Robin costume, little plucky chick, I like her, named Gal, who runs across him and recognizes him as as being a former Robin, and wants to be trained by him because he's Batman adjacent, and she's all not necessarily fangirling, but she's kind of like, oh, you should be able to teach me this and that, which he reluctantly does, and that starts off he training her, or basically trying to train her like Bruce trained him, but doesn't really work out that well, and it ends up going another way. But I'm going to assume the crux of this miniseries is going to be the dynamic between them and Jason wrestling with the past, I guess, and going forward into his current and future of this universe. It was a pretty good read, I must say. Looks like it's only going to be 2 issues, so as many limited series go, this is this is going to be a little light on that. Which there's been some books like that. There's even been like one shots that there's been fully fleshed stories in this universe, so it's pretty good. Next up, though, new Champion of Shazam, number 1 of 4. Oh no, I forgot to read something. Bing. There we go. Sorry, folks. I'm trying to. There we go. And actually, I forgot. The Batman White Knight presents Red Hood. The story is by Sean Gordon Murphy. Script by Clay McCormick. Art by Simone DeMayo. And colors by Simone DeMayo and Dave Stewart. New Champion of Shazam is written by Josie Campbell with art by Evan Doc Shaner. Mostly known as Doc Shaner, but letters by Becca Carey. So, Mary Marvel, part of the Marvel family of the DC universe, aka Shazam. Basically, due to the events of what was going on in Teen Titans Academy, Billy Batson had locked himself away in the Rock of Ages, and I believe that may have caused the rest of the Marvel family to lose their powers. That part I'm not entirely sure, but this issue establishes the fact that Billy, not necessarily prepared for that inevitability, but has ways to work around it, because Mary, who is going off to college and away from her family, trying to find a new identity, and trying to find herself as people tend to do in college, ends up being pulled back into the world of Shazam, thanks to a magical talking bunny that Billy set up for her. So she basically has her own Mr. Tawny. If anybody knows that deep cut reference, I can't say that I know it all that well, but I know that's a thing in DC. So yeah, she gets her powers back, but seems like she is the sole possessor of the powers of Shazam outside of Black Adam, who's off doing other stuff. That's beside the point. That's a different thing. And this sets her up with 2 mysteries that seem like they're going to connect at some point. One having to do with her parents, who are apparently missing, and 2, somebody she was fighting who looks like they had a cell phone in their chest, but also maybe have been imbued with magic themselves. So I suspect those two things are going to come together during the course of this miniseries. We shall find out. Magic the Gathering, number 17. Man, these covers, I tell you, they're just going to be crazy. There we go. Written by Jed McKay, illustrated by Jacques Salomon, Iguara, and Kath Lobo. Colors by Ariana Consani, and letters by Ed Dukeshire. So we find a young, newish planeswalker, that I don't think I've ever heard of before, but definitely new to the story. Trying to find a way to actually this has to do with his attempt to infiltrate Ravnica, which has been taken over by Tezzeret and blocked off from the rest of the other planes. And also, Nico is looking for 3 missing planeswalkers who he's found out and found what's going on with them. That Tezzeret has basically imprisoned, for lack of a better word, uniquely with each one of them. Nico is basically recounting his time in his infiltration of Ravnica and what happens when he tries to confront Tezzeret head on without thinking, coming out of the outside of this, the end of the story rather. So, which it causes the people trying to get into Ravnica to think of a new plan. But that's pretty much the crux of this issue. Next up, new Fantastic Four number 3. Pardon me, folks. This is going to be a pain. There we go. Written by Peter David, art by Alan Robinson, color artist Mike Spicer, letters by VC's Joe Caramagna. So this is the new/old story that has been wedged into a past history of the New Fantastic Four, that being consisting of Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, Hulk, and Wolverine. Excuse me. And there's this priest that they come across who apparently can wish for things to happen. And in this issue, we see that priest starting to get a handle on his powers, I guess, but all while dealing with a possessed Human Torch and a whole bunch of other people running amok in Vegas. And also Ghost Rider, who apparently I found out was Danny Ketch, because I did not read the original new Fantastic Four story, and it was Danny Ketch, and because I was like, why is he calling? Well, like, why is this demon calling dude Danny when it's Johnny Blaze? I'm like, come to find out it was Danny Ketch. I did not know. So, regardless, we get a quite amusing scene back at the Baxter Building of Doctor Strange interrupting a moment between Sue and Reed Richards, because he came bearing warnings for something that is probably going to be related to what's going on in Las Vegas, which leads them to figure out that, hey, Johnny's not here anymore. What's going on? So I guess the rest of the actual Fantastic Four is going to get involved with this situation in the next issue. But we shall see. Legion of X number 4. This is the wrong. Cover for this book, so I apologize for that. But this was the one they had up for some strange reason. It's written by Cy Spurrier. Art. If you're watching the video version, if you're listening to the regular version, the audio version, you don't know what in the world I'm talking about. But anyway. Legion of X number 4, written by Cy Spurrier, art by Jan Bazaldua, color artist Federico Blee, letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So, because of the checklist at the end of the book, we found out that this comes before those last two X-Men books that we were discussing earlier. Doesn't necessarily have anything to do with AXE, so that's beside the point. However, there is a character who is coming to play a part in this issue as in Kurt's and Weaponless Zen's investigation of some Araco business that is in both and may or may not have been dealt with in one of those books. That is going to come up later in I guess in a couple of issues. What we come to find out in one of the X books from this week. But we come to find out that there's some other things going on with this. Like I said, there was Hayat Arakan, and also Charles Xavier, who during this whole time of Hoxpox is recognized to not be the Charles Xavier that you might know from the past. Like, he has definitely changed during the course of this whole thing. It just seems like he's just more of an ass now, like more of a self-righteous ass.
Kinda.
Yeah, in this whole thing, and it is, and I'm saying that because it has come apparent throughout Hoxpox and all now, but it's like, but now it kind of just kind of is point blank, especially in how he's talking to his son and dealing with his son and people around him. Like, he does a couple of things. He does something in this issue with his own stepbrother, by the way, that, you know, was not consensual. One, and like I said, the way he just like treats his son, it's like, this is why he went bad in the first place, dude. But he seems to be the better person. But again, this is before what happens in the X books. Whether he's going to have a change of heart anytime soon, who the heck knows? But also, we also at the same time get a little, let's say, bonding session with Kurt and this new character, Weaponless Zen, a little quicker than I thought was going to be the case, but also a teaching lesson at the same time of going through this. I know this particular book is not one that some people would be would go to, knowing knowing the hierarchy of books, the X books because like seems like there's something. This is a book that's on the side, and it kind of very well is, but it's also dealing with something that's, I guess, fundamental to the culture they're trying to set up, purvey. You know, they're trying to settle in with Krakoa, with a certain kind of religion and or cultural choices that they're trying to do in this book, and this is kind of a work in progress with that, with Nightcrawler at the lead. I would say it's interesting. I know it's probably not going to be something that everybody would pick up because, like I said, it's not necessarily one of the quote-unquote main X books, but it's something that kind of ties into in the background of the main X books at a certain point, because they all kind of weave in and out of each other. But it's been interesting. And I say all that to say this. If you're going to try this book, probably wait till the next arc and read them all in a trade or something like that. Because I guarantee you, they would probably read a lot better then than it does from month to month or week, every other week. I think, this has been coming out like every 2 weeks, right? Or has it been months? I don't know. This book's been coming out fast. But regardless, I think it'll read a little bit better in trade than month to month, because I can realize you're going into it's like, what does it have to do with anything? Well, it feels like it's kind of setting up something that's going to be in the background of their society that they're building up. And that, folks, is it for me. Kliqs of the week.
Kliqs of the week.
We didn't get anything from one of the dudes, did we? We did not.
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I'm good with mine.
Yeah, you seem set.
Yeah, I'll tell you that I definitely did appreciate a couple of the books that we got this week. Killadelphia number 24 being one, Moon Knight 14, even though I didn't give it much attention during my rapid fire review, I thought was also really good. But I'm going to go with X-Men Red number 5 because of the way the destruction Uranos wreaked on Arakko was portrayed, and that last page got me hyped for what's coming next.
Right.
I have to give credit where credit is due to both Al Ewing and Stefano Caselli for giving me a killer cliffhanger ending page as a going away present.
Yes, it does feel like there shall be a reckoning, I dare say. For myself, I'm weirdly leaning towards Iron Man 22. Because of the fact that it's setting up a familiar storyline, or another version of a
Right, an analog to it at least.
Yeah, but without knowing where it's going to go and how it's going to go, we can only say it's showing promise. Batman White Knight White Knight Presents Red Hood also was a pretty decent one. Yeah, I think Moon Knight number 14 definitely also was a pretty good one, I thought. They're basically saying it's all you. This has nothing to do with us. It's all you, Mark. It's an intervention. Mm-hmm. Even though we didn't dress it up as an intervention, but it was totally an intervention. But yeah. So yeah, I guess I'll go with Iron Man 22. Just kind of let that go out. And with that, we can go on to the news section, but first an ad read.
Alrighty, our first ad read of the night is for Funko, Fun at First Sight. It's your home for exclusive collectibles such as their world-famous pop vinyl bobbleheads, apparel including t-shirts, hats, and socks, and brand merchandise such as their custom DIY pop figures, art books, and skateboards. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy 10% off your entire purchase when shopping at Funko. To place your first order with 10% off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcast Free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Funko link and place your order. When you get to the checkout, put in the offer code SHOP10 for your 10% off discount. Funko through cspn.us. Do it today. And now we get into the news.
And we get into some cinematic news as we do about this time. Loki writer reveals Miss Marvel Easter egg that she snuck into the show. Which, by the way, if you have Disney Plus, the Assembled, which is basically the behind the scenes making of show that they do for their Disney shows, is up for Ms. Marvel. So you can definitely check that out if you're interested. But Ms. Marvel head writer Bishake Ali apparently slipped a Miss Marvel Easter egg into Loki's episode Lamentis, which was the one that found Loki and Sylvie trapped on the planet that was about to go bye-bye. And that was last year, so that's interesting. So let's see. In a post on Twitter, the writer confirmed that she met for Miss Marvel and was feeling hopeful when overseeing the third episode of Loki as executive story editor. So she decided to feature a city on the edge of Lamentis as an advanced nod to the transition she and the characters were facing. Shiru means to start, or the start, and it's the start of something new for LNS, a transformation, Ali explained. And writing that episode was the start of something new for her, which was her show running Miss Marvel. So that's neat. That's pretty cool. So basically, she snuck some Urdu text into the episode, which the translation of that I just gave. Which I never noticed that. So go figure. Next up.
I wanted to circle back on something that we had talked about earlier.
Okay,
so apparently the Mandarin has been gone for a long time. He's been gone since like 2012.
I kind of figured it's been a while, but how, I just don't know.
2012, 2013-ish,
Right.
Probably approximately around that time that we got Iron Man 3.
Right. Yeah, that's sure. That checks out. We damn sure. We're not. I doubt if we're getting Trevor Slattery in the pages of Iron Man.
I was just curious, so I went to the Googles, and this is off the Wikipedia article, so we can't we can neither confirm nor deny the veracity of this particular account. But at the end of the day, that
logical.
seems to be what happened.
Yeah, that feels logical. Yeah, and I'll have to read that. But anywho.
Mm-hmm. All right, next up, Ms. Marvel directors detail a deleted scene they're begging Marvel to release. So, the directors Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah hope a certain deleted scene from the MCU Disney Plus series will finally see the light of day. During a recent interview with The Direct, they explained that several scenes were cut from the Disney Plus series, with the directors asking the studio to make at least one publicly available. Also, with her costume reveal, she comes for the first time in her costume, and she looks at this little kid, and she says, "Whoa, you're Ms. Marvel." And then, boom, Kamala gets a ball against her head, and she falls, and it's one of the kids on the basketball courts who throws it. But that shot is really funny. We're going to ask and plead with Marvel to put it on YouTube someday. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. Guess what, folks? It was Kevin Feige's all along, who was responsible for the use of the X-Men animated theme in that one episode of Ms. Marvel. Spoiler alerts for Ms. Marvel, the series, if you haven't seen it. But yes, there was, I will say that the use of the X-Men animated theme was something that was prominently and quite interestingly laid into the last episode of Ms. Marvel. And like I said,
right, causing more friction between Iman Vellani and Kevin Feige.
Indeed. But yeah, during the interview with the Wrap, Adil El Arbi and Bilal Fallah discussed this, probably the same article from the last article. Discussed the secrecy of introducing one of the first mutants into the MCU. Well, to begin with, it was the last thing Bilal and I read, so that was the best kept secret. Nobody knew about it until we read the last version of the script, and all of a sudden it was like, damn, that Kevin. Then Kevin Feige said, just shoot this, put a little music on it, and that's it. LRB concluded by explaining that both X-Men, the animated series, and Spider-Man, the animated series, were his and Fallah's introduction to the Marvel Universe.
Bunch of millennials.
Yeah, I know, right? Which is actually kind of reminded me of something that I meant to mention before we started talking at all. Go watch the Milestone Generation documentary on HBO Plus, HBO Max, while HBO Max is still a thing, because it's pretty good. If you're ever curious about where Static Shock came from and the comic book line called The Milestone, definitely check it out. It's a pretty interesting documentary for being as short as.
I mean, I watched it first, and I said to the rest of our crew, the rest of the hosts of the Comic Book Chronicles, that I kind of wished that I was coming in fresh, because I would have learned a lot more. A lot of the stuff was stuff I knew already.
Yeah, stuff that kind of came out at the time.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, there was a couple of things I didn't know, but for the most part, yeah, for the like I knew a lot of it. But it's still interesting, even if you do know it. But yeah, definitely check out that documentary. And the reason why I bring that up is because just like the directors, the showrunners here in that documentary, some of the newer folks were like, "Yeah, Static, the cartoon was my introduction to the Milestone
characters,
right? Because that was the one that ended up coming out." So I'm like, okay, that makes sure, okay. And then I felt instantly old because, you know.
I mean, I'd only ever read like the first couple of issues of each of those books. So, you know, anything more in depth than that, I probably got from the Static Shock cartoon.
I want to say, actually, weirdly enough, although I was a little bit older, I am a little bit older. I think Static probably was. Like, I was around them, but I wasn't reading books that heavily, and this because the Milestone was like a 90s thing, and I wasn't really reading too many books at all.
I didn't read it when it was initially coming out. I actually read it after it had first come out,
right?
Because I was working at a comic book store,
right?
And we were, you know, one of our jobs as like a group of college kids was to shuffle around some of the back issues, and so I had a chance in some downtime to read, and I was like, oh, you know, let me take a look at these.
Right.
So, you know, I did not read them as they were coming out.
Right.
My budget didn't allow for it. So,
that was another thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, next up, moving along. Speaking of that animated series for the millennials that introduced them to the X-Men, that had a theme song by Whitney Houston. I mean, by somebody else. Thanks to fan demand, you know, it's I'm your baby tonight, I think, is the Whitney Houston song.
That is correct.
Thanks to fan demand, Marvel's X-Men, the animated series, has been restored to its original story order on Disney Plus. So the announcement of the technical fix for the critically acclaimed, was it critically acclaimed really?
Yeah,
Fox Kids cartoon from the 90s was made on Marvel's Twitter account. It was posted with a GIF of the series logo and a caption that read, "Because you asked for it, sugar." Oh, jeez. X-Men, the animated series, is now in original story order on Disney Plus.
So, Agent 78 and I had talked about this a while ago when I told him that I was revisiting that series when it got on Disney Plus. And I also told him, if I remember correctly, that it was wildly out of order when it was. And especially in certain particular seasons, not just like certain spots here and there. Clone Wars was also out of place in a lot of spots also. Neither here nor there. So if anybody wants to revisit it now, they don't have to go through the issue that I and other people did in revisiting or visiting that show, which I don't know why it was out of order in the first place. It makes no sense why they do that. Like, why do they did it with Firefly also? Why is this stuff out of order? Just run it the way they had it set up. So it doesn't make any sense. But it is what it is. So yeah, it's out there. I hadn't checked the reorder, and I'm not going to because I've already done my rewatch of it. But it's out there, folks. Have at it. What if season 2 cast Steve Rogers in a Winter Soldier type role? This I'm not surprised with, to be honest.
I thought we talked about this.
No, we didn't. We talked about the fact that What If was getting a season 3 or whatnot, but I don't think we talked about this.
Okay.
But at the Marvel Studios animation panel, there's still stuff coming out from San Diego. In fact, I think this is some spillover from last week. Anyway, they talked about the episode with Peggy Carter and Steve Rogers. You've seen it. We don't have to talk about it. But basically, at the end of that episode, it kind of set up a potential continuation dealing with the reveal of someone potentially being alive. That being Steve Rogers in the Hydra Stomper with a candlestick. But apparently, it sounds like he's going to possibly do the Winter Soldier thing in going into the next season. But we'll see. Next up.
All right, Roger Jean Page has not joined the MCU. Disney included him on Secret Invasion cast list in error. That's a heck of an error.
Right? I thought, yeah, because I remember seeing this. I'm like, well, how would you make that mistake? Or maybe that's the thing you wanted, or maybe he was thinking about it and it didn't, and he was like, nah.
Maybe he got cut.
Or maybe he got cut. Yeah, it could be anything. It's like, but that's kind of a weird error that could have potentially had some legs to it, you know?
He might have gotten cut from from the movie, and his character may appear somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
or
we'll see.
Yeah, like I said, it could have been as like, well, maybe they were trying to get him in, or maybe it was like in a first draft before going into the thing. Like they had it that he was in here, but they never did actually secure whether he was going to actually be in it or not. So whoever put this out there was going off for some old information.
Maybe.
Who's
All
next?
right, moving on.
What's next?
She-Hulk includes a Ghost Rider reference apparently. So I saw talk of this on a couple of videos, and I'm like, I didn't see it, but okay. So Entertainment Tonight shared an exclusive clip of the upcoming Disney Plus series, teasing what fans could expect from the show. One clip, around the 1 minute 50 mark, shows Wong on the stage where he appears to be fighting a few unknown winged creatures, but fans had their attention diverted. I know they probably just went frame by frame like a whole bunch of YouTube videos do. You're giving these people too much credit. Away from the action after a Ghost Rider reference was spotted in the scene, and that being a poster for it says it looks like Donnie Blaze, but it could be Johnny with like two N's, and not the traditional spelling of Johnny, with the H in the two N's. And in the picture, the person seems to be on fire or ablaze, as it were. So this article is speculation that it could be possibly a combination of Johnny and Danny Ketch, Johnny Blaze and Danny Ketch, or it just could be something we don't know anything about. So, but nevertheless, that little tidbit was there that some people definitely caught. Next up.
Star Wars spin-off Andor has a new trailer and a new premiere date. The Disney Plus series will now start streaming in September. So, just a few days ago, Disney released a new trailer for Andor, the next big Star Wars series on Disney Plus. And with it comes news that the show has been delayed by nearly a month. Andor was previously pegged for a premiere on August 31st, but the new clip says that it will debut with a 3-episode premiere on September 21st. The show is a prequel to a prequel taking place before the events of the film Rogue One, which itself was set before the first Star Wars movie. It will once again star Diego Luna in the titular role of Cassian Andor, while the trailer also shows off the return of Forrest Whitaker as Saw Gerrera.
Lies! Deceptions!
Nice. So yeah, I assume you watched it.
Oh yeah, well that's I didn't even read this far into the article. I already had that sound effect already keyed up.
Right. So yeah, I was going to make an Andor joke, but we'll leave that for when we talk about the show. I'm sure there's one that's going to be more prevalent. Black Panther Wakanda Forever trailer nabs 172 million views in the first 24 hours. One of Marvel's biggest, which goes against the stupid Reddit post, and I hate Reddit. But you can go to my Reddit, it's in my subreddit. Anyway, where somebody was like, "Oh, it didn't do as well as Thor Ragnarok because Thor Ragnarok got X many views, in 24 hours than this did. So that means it's not going to be any good." And I'm sitting here like, what? What kind of madness are you? And then somebody actually pointed out, I was like, well, Thor Ragnarok kind of came in at a different time and wasn't, and it wasn't a lot of. There was somebody. Basically, there was bucking up again without saying the obvious "where are your numbers," thing, which we did not see. But regardless, hey, that trailer did real good, regardless of buttholes on the internet. Because there were definitely a lot of downvotes for that trailer because people are stupid. But anyway, a lot of views. There you go. Next up.
Next up, in related news, Black Panther's Winston Duke cautions fans about Wakanda Forever expectations. So he told fans to drop any expectations they may have about the upcoming Marvel Cinematic Universe film. The actor who plays M'Baku explained to Entertainment Weekly how the sequel would differ from its predecessor. Quote, "It's also important to let go of any expectation that this movie will be Black Panther 1. Duke explained, "This is going to be its own thing. This narrative has evolved and it's changed just like all the characters and the circumstances of Wakanda itself. For me in particular, I just had to let go of the expectation of this being anything like the first movie and allow this movie to be its own thing," unquote. That's fair.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I kind of put this in here, because I know there was definitely expectations on both sides of the joint with this movie, because I know people were like, well, this should have happened, this might not happen, this shouldn't happen, how they're gonna handle this, and then all the kind of speculations that we won't know until the movie drops, you know. And people are already like, well, it's not gonna be this because of whatever. Which is like, let the movie stand on its own when we see it, and we'll see.
And we've already seen some of the after effects of the blip on Wakanda over the course of the movies that have come since. Right. So we'll see more direct evidence of, you know, what Wakanda is like in the wake of the blip, but we've already seen a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm. Next up, Black Panther 2 cast UFC champion Kamaru Usman in mystery role, or it was reported as such. So apparently this came from MMA Fighting, which I guess is a site. Yeah. And then not only that, but it came from UFC Hall of Famer Daniel Cormier. So this is not coming from anybody in Marvel. It's not coming from... What was that? Oh. Anyway.
No, that was me. I pressed it by accident. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So this is basically coming... I would say this is not coming from someplace official.
It's a rumor.
Basically. So, like, some UFC guy saying this other UFC guy is going to be involved in Wakanda Forever. And apparently this was during a weigh-in show for a fight. So, like I said, you got to take that for whatever the hell that was. But I thought it was a weird tidbit. So, nevertheless, next up.
Next up, Avengers: The Kang Dynasty is to be directed by Shang-Chi filmmaker Destin Daniel Cretton. So I think we did mention this, so I'll just touch on this very briefly. This is straight out of the Hollywood Reporter, and it was revealed by Kevin Feige at Marvel's Saturday presentation at San Diego Comic-Con that Destin Daniel Cretton, that this movie was coming out, and now it's been revealed that Destin Daniel Cretton is helming this movie.
Right, yeah. We knew about the movie. We didn't know he was helming it until a few days later. So, Fantastic Four's Jessica Alba says, MCU so white.
Gosh.
Actually, it's still quite Caucasian despite diversity efforts. So, this was an interview with Glamour UK when she was asked about diversity efforts on the part of Hollywood studios and others, according to other things, I guess, according to this article. So, quote unquote, it's something they care about, which is fine. How they get there doesn't really matter. You're like, great. Now you realize there's a whole group of people that you just frankly left out of the conversation because you didn't see them. They were there the whole time. And I guess it's the people in charge. However they get there, it really genuinely doesn't matter. I just think more of the young people who are coming up, who are going to be our future leaders. It's important for them to see the world on screen or in stories, in the dreams that we create as entertainers. It reflects the world that they live in. And then this talk turns to Marvel, and basically she says it's still quite Caucasian, even though they're trying, to paraphrase what she's saying. And I think she was saying that this was before the Disney buyout, so I don't know, maybe she's drawing some parallel there also. So that is an interesting thing for Miss Alba to say. So I got a kick out of that. Next up.
No comment. Goodness gracious. All right, next up, Malaysia confirms the cancellation of Thor Love and Thunder release. Why, Malaysia? It's not like they spit gum on. That's Singapore. It's not like they spit gum down on the ground, did they? So Malaysian theater operator Golden Screen Cinemas has announced that Thor Love and Thunder will not get a theatrical release in the country. This follows on from announcements some weeks ago, that the film was indefinitely postponed. It finished with in the announcement. It finished with the rejoinder, "Please buy our merchandise." Okay, seriously. So let's see here. So the postponement move is the second lost release of a Disney-handled movie in Malaysia. In the space of 2 months, in June, the release of Pixar animated movie Lightyear was canceled after the country's censorship authority asked for cuts to the film, understood to include a same-sex kiss, in order for the film to obtain release certification. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be related to why Thor was canceled also.
Sure. Next up. Sad news. So, well, this is starting the sad news block, folks. So apologies ahead of time. Titanic, The Omen, and Tron star David Warner dies at 80. This was news from last week that I forgot to mention. Excuse me, but I would say prolific actor David Warner, because he's been all over the place. Apparently, again, the aforementioned Titanic and The Omen and Tron, which, you know, I think that is my first seeing of this man. But according to the BBC, Warner passed away on Sunday, July the 24th at Denville Hall, which is a care home for those in the entertainment industry from a cancer-related illness that apparently he looks like he's been dealing with for the past 18 months prior to that. So his family says in a statement, he will be greatly missed by us, his family and friends, and remembered as a kind-hearted, generous, and compassionate man, partner, and father whose legacy of extraordinary work has touched the lives of so many over the years. We are heartbroken. And this is true, because this man has been in a lot of things. Apparently, I did not know this. I was looking through his, because like I said, I know him from Tron, and a few other things. But apparently, Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Also that. Totally forgot about that. But apparently this dude did an episode of Teen Titans Go, which is interesting. Gumball, he did a few episodes of that. And a lot of British stuff, of course. And there's some Doctor Who. But yeah, man's been all over the place. Great actor. So, next up, actor Mary Alice, known to most nerds for playing the Oracle in the Matrix Revolutions, or otherwise known as "That's Not the Oracle I Knew," and voicing the character in video games, has passed away at the age of 85. So she had appeared in numerous other big screen and especially Broadway productions, and I believe won a Tony as well. She died on Wednesday in her home in New York City, according to The Hollywood Reporter. A cause of death was not given. Yeah. So sad news. May she rest in power. Indeed. For a subsection of folks, she was also Lady Bostick on the first season of Different World. So. Yeah.
All right, so she was in Awakenings with Robin Williams and Robert De Niro. She had a part in the Bonfire of the Vanities. I do remember her in Malcolm X, the Spike Lee joint.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh yeah, great actress. Also, sad news that happened within the last couple of days. Nichelle Nichols, aka Uhura, Star Trek, died at 89. I know that she has had some conservatorship issues in the past couple of years with that kind of stuff. So, you know, I'm about to say, plays into that is another that doesn't really matter at this point, because we lost a legend and an icon.
Definitely. Yeah, because at the end of the day, her health was failing, her mind was failing, and that was the worrying part, and that's where that conservatorship issue, those issues come about from.
Yep.
And so that's what was very troubling. I remember seeing her at a con. I wasn't online or anything. I didn't buy an autograph. I just remember seeing her at a table.
Right.
And she was, but this is a while ago, so she was still on the healthier side. But then I saw her again when her health had started to fail, and she seemed very frail. Mm-hmm. And I was very disturbed to hear that her mind was also going. And it's at that point when it's difficult to hear stories about what almost turns into a form of elder abuse, and it's very disturbing to hear stories like that when it comes to famous people who shouldn't be treated like that because they were in fact trailblazers and icons.
Right. In fact, I think I just saw something before we started about someone else who might be having those same issues, and I can't remember who it was at this point. But it's a sad thing, and having been around family with who has had memory issues, and actually one now that I definitely know that has a similar memory issues, it's not easy to deal with. Well, it's definitely not easy for them. It's not easy for anyone taking care of them, as well. So.
Right. All right, next up,
Rest in Power.
Star Trek teases a Picard cast and Strange New Worlds crossover. So the new Star Trek Picard trailer, I have not watched this yet actually, gives us a first look at the stars set to reprise their roles in the series' third and final season. Paramount Plus, only Disney Plus gets that treatment. Paramount Plus debuted the 1-minute trailer at San Diego Comic-Con, which features most of the main cast from Star Trek The Next Generation, including Patrick Stewart, LeVar Burton, Jerry Ryan, Michelle Hurd, Michael Dorn, Marina Sirtis, Jonathan Frakes, and Gates McFadden. The teaser gives us brief glimpses at each character, along with short but profound quotes. Notably absent from the trailer is Brent Spiner, although Paramount Plus hinted at his appearance in a trailer back in April. This is set to debut on Paramount Plus in 2023, but that's not all. Paramount Plus also announced a crossover episode between the Star Trek Strange New Worlds show and the animated Star Trek Lower Decks, which comes from the same creator as Rick and Morty, with both Ensign Beckett Mariner and Ensign Brad Boimler hopping aboard the USS Enterprise in Strange New Worlds. It'll be interesting to see how the live action and animated worlds collide. Are you interested in this crossover? Because I know you're going to be down for Picard.
Yeah. I mean, I'm things for most things. Most if not all things Star Trek. So yeah, I've not watched this Lower Deck thing yet, and I've not watched Strange New Worlds yet. So I am still very curious of the crossing over of those ones.
I think you can skip the next story because I just covered it and move on to the next one.
Well, which is still kind of related because Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3 trailer takes the Cerritos to Deep Space Nine. So apparently, this also came out during San Diego Comic-Con. There was a Lower Decks Season trailer. It picks up after Season 2 cliffhanger, in which Captain Carol Freeman, who's played by A Different World's Dawn Lewis, and Mr. Cooper, if you know her from there, was falsely implicated in the destruction of Pakled Planet. As a result, the USS Cerritos has been impounded and the crew grounded. And I guess from that, they end up on Deep Space Nine. According to this, an Indiana Jones-esque adventure, which includes a visit to DS9. So I'm all for anything DS9 also related. So ding. Next up. Oh, your boy Eugene Cordero is also in this apparently.
Say again?
Eugene Cordero.
Pillboy!
Yeah. Apparently he's a part of the cast in this show. So
I was guessing when you said that. I was like, oh, that sounds Filipino. He's also in that Easter Sunday movie that that's coming out this weekend with
oh yeah,
oh my God, what is the comedian's name? With there's like a whole cast of Filipinos.
is it Joe Coy?
Yeah, Joe Coy.
Yeah. I saw that. I saw the trailer for that. It looks interesting.
You know, that's representation right there. That's you know that's a good thing. I'm not gonna rush out. I'm not Filipino.
Right.
I'm not rushing out this weekend to go see it, but I'm hopeful that people go out and support.
Yeah, like I said, it looks good. So, or at least from that trailer. So we shall see. Next up though.
I got next up.
I know.
Jason Momoa reveals Ben Affleck returns as Bruce Wayne in Aquaman 2. So he's revealed that. He announced it on his Instagram page. Momoa posted a picture of himself and Affleck on the set of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Along with the post, Momoa included a caption voicing his excitement to be reuniting with his Justice League co-star. That's okay. Listen, you know what? It's extending the Snyderverse just a little bit, but you know what? What are you gonna do?
I mean, is it?
Kinda.
I guess. But hey, hey, Affleck wasn't as bad as people thought it was, and I don't know. I don't know the whole Snyderverse thing. Who knows? I mean, sure. Anyway, Shazam 2 trailer takes a jab at Helen Mirren's Fast and Furious role. I still have yet to watch that trailer, by the way.
You know what's funny? When I was joking on last week's show when we had at Matt Wang 97 on, that I had not watched the trailer. I had, because as soon as I clicked play on, I was like, oh, I have seen this.
Nice. That's weird. I wonder why that didn't show up. Your thoughts on it?
Listen, it's lighthearted. It's Shazam. What are you gonna do?
Well, fair enough. Next up.
So, in some dramatic news that dropped just the other day, Warner Brothers has issued a statement about what was once rumored but has now been confirmed, that the Batgirl straight-to-streaming movie and the Scoob 2 animated movie have both been canceled. And so more light has been shown on these surprise shelvings. So, let's see here. All right, so the statement is as follows, quote, "The decision to not release Batgirl reflects our leadership's strategic shift as it relates to the DC Universe and HBO Max. Leslie Grace is an incredibly talented actor, and this decision is not a reflection of her performance. We are incredibly grateful to the filmmakers of Batgirl and Scoob, Holiday Haunt, and their respective casts, and we hope to collaborate with everyone again in the near future." Some of the rumors that I read is that they're willing to take a tax write-off on all of the millions they've already put into these,
Right.
and they won't be able to claim those tax write-offs if these projects ever see the light of day. So there's almost no chance that we're ever going to see any hint of these projects.
Which is fucked up. If we're being if we're being honest. Because especially with what the stuff that they are putting bank money into.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what the thing is. It's a complicated situation because of what you just said, but at the same time, if for whatever reason the initial reports of the screenings made this direct to streaming movie irredeemable, that's not a good sign. So I can definitely see why they would be hesitant to, kind of get, even more bad press or bad reviews coming their way. But at the same time, hey, it's streaming. What does anybody care?
Right. And again, they put out Joker.
Well, we'll get to some Joker news. I don't know if you have it in here. That dropped today.
Oh, to my Lady Gaga confirmed that she's going to be in.
Yeah,
no, I don't think I did put it in
she's
there,
got
but
a Joker face. Oh no, I
talked-
did go there.
We talked about the fact that she was going to be in there, so I just took that as that's something they'd probably do. So, but yeah, we'll mention that right now. I didn't put it in the lineup because we pretty much already talked about it. So yeah, it is also worth noting with this particular case though. I've seen reports that Supergirl movie also might be on the block,
Right.
and some other stuff. HBO Max might be getting cleaved up, and tucked under Discovery Plus or something like that, which would be very stupid. So yeah, I don't know. This is
I think that right. What I was going to say is I think what's going to end up happening is that there's going to be some reshuffling. This is just us,
right?
You know, purely it's just pure speculation at this point. I think what there's going to be is some real reshuffling of creative teams because there is some duplication involved, and there, you know, it's unfortunately going to mean what you know. It's the same thing that happens whenever there is a merger or an acquisition. When there are similar companies merging together, people are going to lose their jobs, unfortunately. And so part of it is, I think, going to be streamlined where, and I always thought it was a little weird that there would be an HBO team and an HBO Max team, even though I understood the logic. Right. Because they are two different platforms, HBO being the TV platform and the Max being the streaming platform where they could be a little bit more daring.
Right.
You know, because not everyone who has HBO Max has direct HBO and vice versa. Right. Although you do have, although vice versa really does work as long as they're relatively tech savvy.
And technically, I guess depending on how your cable provider is, you can get one if you have the other.
Well, no, that's my point.
Right.
If you have HBO, if you have straight up HBO, you automatically have HBO Max. You do not have to have a separate subscription, but as you know, so long as you are relatively tech savvy and you know how to install an app.
So here's something interesting. That part, personally, not true, because I have HBO Max. I do not have HBO. And
No. That you didn't. I didn't say that wasn't the case. I didn't say that wasn't the case. I didn't say my point being is that you can that if you have HBO, most of the time you can get HBO Max for free. The other way doesn't work. That's what I said. That's what I started with.
But
so you are correct.
Right.
Right. You are correct. But I wasn't saying anything against against that. That's my point.
Right. And by the way, this is the thing. Maybe check your if you have internet service or cable service with a provider. Maybe check and see if you have something like that in your thing that they don't necessarily tell you have. Just saying, you might have a HBO Max for free. You
right.
Don't know
as long as you're paying for the regular HBO service. So,
but I'm saying I'm not though.
No, but you're actually just reinforcing my point is that you can get HBO Max separately.
Right.
You can, but if you're already getting HBO, you can get HBO Max. Basically included with your subscription.
Right.
So
that is also.
But anyway.
Or self-service. Now that I think about it, because I know like some places will give out X months of that stuff. Regardless, I
was about to say we're talking in circles because we're not really making an argument. Like at the end of the day, what I said it still stands, and ultimately, with Discovery Plus throwing basically their wrench into the situation. That's another, how these two streaming services get along is really what everyone's kind of concerned about. Is everything going to fall under the Discovery Plus banner, or that's what some people are guessing at?
Right. Because I've also seen articles where it's like there are a lot of HBO Max original stuff that also got the cut in addition to stuff like this. Right. I haven't seen much or if anything on the Discovery side of getting cleaved.
Right. Because they are the purchaser, not the purchasor.
Right.
Not the purchasee. The purchasee is HBO.
Right.
So
it's a weird situation. Next up, though.
All right. Wait, I forgot who went last.
Go ahead and take it.
No. Whatchamacallit? No, you're up next because I did the statement about the cancellation. So yeah, you're up next.
Another ending, which I don't know, maybe this was partly due, but The Flash on CW is ending with season 9, leaving the Arrowverse, well, according to this article, all but dead, which might be a little hyper, but I think, but also not far off anyway, because I think the Flash was like one, if not the last show that was still on. Now that I think about it, so yeah, not far off, but. It's apparently that The Flash is ending in season 9. It might be a truncated season. I think they said 13 episodes. I'm not sure if this article has that, but this is what was reported by The Wrap. and with an interview with the EP of the show, Eric Wallace, who announced that season 9 would be the last, writing that Barry Allen has reached the starting gate for his last run. Haha. And then the article kind of goes on from there. So yeah, it's like the Arrowverse had its run. Yeah, it ended up being the Flash first for a good long time. Let's be honest. So I guess it was past. It has been.
It's been past due.
Yeah, some would say it's been past due. It's hard to argue that. Put it that way.
Yep.
Next up,
the Harley Quinn team. This is the animated series. Won't listen to fans who want a Joker romance, and they say that Harley and Ivy will never break up. Good for them. Season 3 of the animated show just launched on HBO Max, and it appears fans won't have to worry too much about the longevity of Harley and Ivy's relationship. And just like I said, they are not trying to bring the Joker relationship into this animated show.
Right. And no need to. The Justice League, Batman, and Legion of Superheroes gets new... Huh?
No, I just said check just to get rid of the screwy sound.
Right. Justice League, Batman, and Legion of Superheroes gets new DC animated movies. This is also coming out of Comic-Con after... I still need to watch this. So after premiering the new Green Lantern Beware My Power movie, for attending fans at the convention, film publicist Gary Amirio spoke on what they could expect in the future. CBR was present, and said that, some of this is known already. Batman, Superman, Battle of the Super Sons, we knew about that already. Ruby and Justice League, knew about that already. But also revealing that Batman, The Doom That Came to Gotham, Legion of Superheroes, and Justice League Warworld are all titles of movies that are forthcoming. Don't necessarily know when. Also saw something about there was supposed to be a Justice Society movie that might have also got scrapped during the course of all this, but I'm not sure if that was the case or not. But nevertheless, hey, we got more DC animated stuff coming. Next.
In unfortunate news, Zack Snyder is set to guest star on Teen Titans Go. So this came out during Comic-Con, and he's going to be guest starring on an upcoming episode of the popular Cartoon Network series. Let's see here. Snyder will appear as himself in the series' 365th episode, titled 365. In the chapter, the Titans want their 365th episode to be extra special, so they head to the Warner Brothers studio lot to find a director. Enter Snyder. The episode will premiere this fall on Cartoon Network. Coincidentally, I finally got around to watching on HBO Max the Teen Titans Go episode with Marv Wolfman and George Perez in it, and it was nice to hear their voices.
Yeah. Also in this article, worth noting that the hip-hop group De La Soul, who had been on the show before, is going to come back to the show in season 8 for another guest appearance. Which I think I saw that episode somewhere, but it was pretty good. Plus, I love De La Soul, so any chance to see them is great.
Sure.
No details about the upcoming cameo though, but.
I'm just waiting for the old catalog to start streaming because they got their rights back.
I thought it had already. I thought it had started already.
Mm-mm.
Huh. Okay.
Not yet. I mean, I don't know what streaming service you're on, but I'm on Spotify. It still hasn't come back. It still hasn't come up. That is.
Okay. No. Yeah. It's Spotify. I thought that came up on that, but I guess not. Wow. It's been a while for that. Then, if that's the case.
Yeah, it's been like almost a year. I want to say it was like sometime late last year they got their rights back.
Right.
So
interesting. Next up, though, the Goon movie is in the works at Netflix. The Goon is a comic book series, obviously. We wouldn't be talking about it. Well, that's not a lie, also, because we have to talk about this stuff. Regardless, there's going to be a Goon animated movie. It's going to be at Netflix. And let's see, got some people behind it, and I don't think we have a date for it. We do not. So, and apparently the movie had a Kickstarter back in 2008. So there you go. It's going to be out there. Next up.
All right. I don't know if you watched this, but Prime Video's buzzworthy adaptation of Paper Girls has already arrived a little bit earlier than fans expected. So this dropped last Thursday night, and it made the entire first season of Paper Girls available to stream on Amazon Prime Video. So this was supposed to drop on Friday morning, but it dropped a few hours earlier. So it gives fans the opportunity to finally delve into the sci-fi series based on Brian K. Vaughan and Cliff Chiang's Image comic series of the same name. I haven't gotten to this yet. I may just dive into this because I am struggling through the latter half of season 3 of Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, I told you it gets good until it's not.
It's rough sledding here, folks.
Yeah, those last couple of seasons a little bit of a slog.
It's rough sledding. I can't lie.
But that said, yeah, I was around when this news dropped, and I did not get a chance to, or I did not take the chance, I should say, to watch it. So I am also in the same boat as you. I also kind of want to read the bookstore first, but I don't think I'm not gonna do that. Yeah,
I was about to say I'd have to go on. I think you said that you subscribe to Comixology, so you probably have access to it. I don't. I mean, obviously there are means to get to it. And I physically own a fully autographed copy of the first issue.
Right.
When it came out, I got it signed by Vaughn and by Cliff Chiang. But yeah, I haven't gotten to the. It's only 8 episodes, so I should be able to knock this out. Over this weekend. Like if I watch like an episode or 2 tomorrow. So
yeah,
hard.
I'm sure people have checked it out by now. So
yeah, I think so.
We'll give impressions next week if we take the chance. Next up, though, is this me? Godzilla vs. Kong sequel officially begins filming in Australia. Yep, that was the right response.
That's good. I mean, listen, I'm happy that that a sequel to this is coming out. It's definitely the American version of Godzilla, so we kind of have to deal with it. But at the end of the day, it's still Godzilla. I don't particularly care for what happens to Kong, but you know what?
Yes. So this was a news report from Australia that filming has started. So that's how we know about this. Yeah, we'll see. I guess there's a beach scene or a beach party that's going to happen, according to what this article says. Next up,
Jessica Jones's Kristen Ritter to star in Orphan Black Echoes. So Kristen Ritter is heading back to AMC as the star of Orphan Black Echoes. Ritter, who featured on AMC's Breaking Bad and starred in Marvel's Jessica Jones, will also serve as executive producer for the series. The show is set in the same world as the critically acclaimed sci-fi hit Orphan Black, and will get a 10-episode first season run on AMC Plus. The series will be set in the near future and will take a deep dive into the exploration of the scientific manipulation of human existence. I have not watched Orphan Black. This is where Tatiana Maslany came from, right?
That is correct. Which is why I found this funny. I was like, Tatiana comes into the MCU with a She-Hulk, and one Marvel character goes into where she came from. So, but yeah, I've heard good things about the original series. I've watched a couple of episodes, and like I said last week, I have intention to watch it, but I've not taken that. I think this is set up to be. Is this a prequel to that? I think. Doesn't really say, but it basically goes through. Hey, Ritter's playing a woman named Lucy. And they'll unravel the mystery of their identity. Her and a group of women, which was probably her. Next up, Disney Plus, actively pursuing a Doctor Who streaming deal with the BBC. According to Bloomberg, the two streaming giants are currently in discussions ahead of the show's anniversary special later this year. There's no guarantee that the two will reach a deal, making Disney Plus Doctor Who's new streaming home, or at least according to anonymous sources. So if the deal goes through, Disney fans and Whovians alike will see the show on Disney Plus, as well as through the BBC. Which, as we've said before, there are ways to watch that show if you really, really want to, or don't have the thing. Says, Doctor Who was aired exclusively through BBC since the show's premiere in 1963, and has been housed sporadically on different platforms for global viewing, such as HBO Max, which, at this point, you might as well say is in flux. Next up.
Everything Everywhere All at Once is A24's first movie to hit 100 million globally. Good for them. I like this movie and I recommend it.
Yeah, A24 has been putting out some trailers since but then again there was a film festival recently, but I've noticed there's like every other trailer I've seen recently, it's pretty much coming from them. So that's interesting. So yeah, congrats to them. I have not watched this movie yet, but I'll hit it up at some point. Peanuts revealed trailer for a new special. Looks like it's revolving around Lucy, and it says Apple TV Plus. I'm not doing that plus thing. That's all Agent 70 has released the official synopsis for Snoopy Presents Lucy's School, a new Peanuts special set to debut on the streamer. Because as we have talked about in the past, all the Peanut stuff is under Apple Plus. If I said Disney Plus, I didn't mean that, but Apple TV Plus. So if you want to get your Peanuts fix, you got to go there, folks, and that's a crying shame. But anyway, per synopsis, Lucy's School is a love letter to teachers and an appreciation of the impact a teacher can have on a child. Explores the fears of change and shows how Lucy, supported by her friends, faces and overcomes her own fears. And maybe she'll let Charlie Brown kick the ball this damn time. Probably not. Next up.
Really? This is the story I got? SpongeBob SquarePants announced his first crossover event, The Tidal Zone. Nickelodeon announces The Tidal Zone, a crossover event between SpongeBob SquarePants, Camp Coral, and The Patrick Star Show. So this is announced at San Diego Comic-Con. So The Tidal Zone is a parody of The Twilight Zone, is a 1-hour crossover special featuring SpongeBob SquarePants, as well as its spin-off series Camp Coral, SpongeBob's Under Years, and The Patrick Star Show. The crossover is slated to premiere on Nickelodeon this November. Listen, I liked watching SpongeBob SquarePants when it first came out. I thought it was subversive. I thought it was fun. Mm-hmm. I did not know it had expanded and spun off things.
Yeah, apparently it had legs. Sea legs.
Apparently, yeah.
Are you ready, kids? Avatar's Last Airbender's original Cabbage Merchant actor joins Netflix's adaptation. So according to Avatar News, James Sy, actually I'm not sure how to pronounce that, my apologies, will portray the Cabbage Merchant, aka the Cabbage Man, in Netflix's Avatar The Last Airbender. Sy voiced the character in the original animated series of the same name, which aired on Nickelodeon. We all know this. He later voiced the son of the Cabbage Merchant in Legend of Korra, which I did not know because I still haven't yet to see Korra yet. So that's funny. So you will get to hear him say, "My cabbages," all over again. Next up.
All right. So this is live action stuff.
This is
Netflix US announced on Wednesday that it will add Full Metal Alchemist: The Revenge of Scar, the first of the 2 live-action sequel films in the Full Metal Alchemist franchise, on August 20th. As previously announced, the company will also add the Kakegurui twin anime spin-off series on August 4th, the Rila Kuma's theme park adventure anime on August 25th, and the Tekken Bloodline animated series on August 18th. Okay.
Easy for you to say. By the way, folks, this is the anime block. How you go? Here you go. My Hero Academia.
Now we're in the anime block.
Well, yeah.
1 second, because that's what I was gonna do. I was gonna queue up something, and then I realized when I read this, like, oh no, this is live action.
Right. Well, it still counts. Alrighty. My Hero Academia unleashes a season 6 premiere date with new art.
That's awesome news.
Yeah. According to the official Japanese Twitter account, the MHA anime will return on October the 1st. I believe I know somebody's birthday.
That's cool.
New illustration, which shows both sides of the upcoming all-out war between pro-heroes and villainous paranormal liberation front, was also unveiled. While the premiere date specifically refers to when the show will air in Japan, Crunchyroll has hosted simulcasts of previous seasons of the show, so it's safe to assume that it's going to continue to happen.
It's good news. I should have played this instead. Because My Hero news was up front.
Indeed. So yeah, usually the simulcast is like the next day after within hours or the next day after the Japanese showing. So yeah, that'll be good for that. Maybe I'll be caught up by then. Who's to say? Next up,
you should try.
Yeah, I might.
All right, next up, My Hero Academia OVA unleashes the anime's wackiest villain yet. So I am fortunate enough to have watched these OVAs first. They dropped 2 of them over the last week, and these are the season 5 OVAs. There are 2 OVAs, and the one that they want to focus on here, I don't want to spoil it just in case people are out here not having watched the OVAs yet.
Right.
But there is a pretty silly, I don't want to say villain, a vandal is the best way to describe him, who has a pretty interesting quirk, which is what they call superpowers in the world of My Hero Academia. So, yeah, it's pretty wacky. Yeah, I can't call him a villain. He's definitely a vandal.
He's not a savage, is he?
No. More like let's just say more like a bomber, let's say, as in Tagger.
Sure.
But not in the traditional bombing, someone who bombs sense.
Gotcha. Next up, last in the before we go over to the manga stuff, Crunchyroll, and this came out today, so this is hot off the presses. Crunchyroll closes deal to acquire anime superstore Right Stuff, which technically...
No, we are not making a New Kids on the Block reference.
No, we are not. So, actually, this technically could have gone into the next section, but whatever. It's starting it off one way or the other. So, this is some quite interesting news. If you are, if you're in the world of anime merch, basically. Right Stuff has been around for a long time. I honestly, like I said, thought they were kind of not around anymore. But silly of me to think that. Crunchyroll bought them, which means Sony bought them. So, I don't know what this means. Well, I mean, obviously know what this means. I guess this bulks up their Crunchyroll's merch side a good bit, and because Right Stuff also has done sales like anime stuff, anime DVDs and stuff like that, which I think they do like a whole bunch of like stuff like that, even the adult side of that, which I don't know where that stuff is going, for according to somebody that's on Twitter who brought that part up. But I don't know. We'll see. I guess it's a good news. I mean, it's a good deal, but like I said, we'll see what to do with it. Next up, we're going. I mean,
competition's usually better,
right?
But if what you're saying is true, and this Right Stuff, I'm scrolling through the website now. If you're saying that this had been kind of on its last legs, maybe this is what this site needs to, revitalize itself, and tying it into the Crunchyroll anime empire now will give it some new life as a merchandising arm.
Well, I mean, like I said, when I thought it was on its last legs, I meant from like years ago because I remember I got a whole bunch of anime. I think through Right Stuff because they were doing a like real big clearance.
Mhm.
And I don't. That doesn't necessarily mean they were like going out of business or anything. But at the time, it's like I don't remember hearing too much from them after it. But then again, I wasn't also looking too long and too hard for anime merch. So
Got it.
um,
Understood.
that being said, like I said, I just hadn't really paid that much closer of attention to them since in the prevailing years. But apparently, yeah, they've still been around. So excuse me. So good on them, I guess. One for them. But anyway,
I mean, if if I didn't, having not been all that connected to anime merchandise before, I'm like, well, I didn't know this existed.
right.
But I live in New York City, so it's not that hard to find stores that deal with this kind of stuff.
Right.
Sometimes you do have to go to some Asian neighborhoods and find it, but seeing this online, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. I did not know that this existed.
Well, see, and
I mean, I went to eBay and to Amazon.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up because that brings up the other thing. Like with the prevalence of, like, Amazon and other places, even big box stores that in the last few years, or I guess in the last decade or so, that had been getting into anime, and it's not hard to find places to find anime that's not places
Right.
like this. Like this
Especially
is one
the
of those
mainstream
places.
stuff, right? Especially the mainstream stuff.
Exactly, and this is one of those places like that you could get all that stuff before that stuff was prevalent.
Got it. Okay.
So, and I want to say they, like I said, they had like they had a distribution deal with some anime companies, but I can't remember. I might be wrong about that part.
Yeah.
Regardless, we're gonna
let's move on because that awful song is in my head. I need to get it out.
Which one? Never mind.
I'm not saying it. I'm not
I
saying
know.
it.
I know. Keep going.
I'm not saying it. All right, next up. So I will lead off the.
I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, I will lead off the comic book manga news and put in a transition here. Let's see here. Toshiki Inoue, Taro Chiaki launch a Despair Memory Gundam sequel manga on July 29th. Okay, so let's see. I got to open up this article here and see. So this was announced. Was this announced at San Diego? I think so.
Around.
Yeah, last Friday, the anime and tokusatsu writer Inoue and manga artist Chiaki will launch a new Gundam manga titled Despair Memory Gundam Sequel on Comiplex, the manga website of Heroes Inc.'s Monthly Heroes magazine on July 29th. The manga's first volume will ship on August 29th. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, circling back to that Crunchyroll Right Stuff thing just real quick, because this article on the side just reminded me if you're watching the video version. So yeah, Right Stuff will continue to sell products from different companies, and that's important because, like I said, Sony, who also owns Filmation, owns Crunchyroll. So, I guess there was some contention there as to what they're going to be dealing with or dealing in after the sale goes through. But anyway, Detroit Become Human is becoming a manga, apparently. And this was a report by Famitsu, so it's legit, I guess. That's not even a guess. Famitsu is legit. Detroit Becoming Human, which was a video game for some people who know by Quantic Dreams. The quality of it, you have to talk to people who actually played it, quote unquote. Anyway, there's going to be a manga called Detroit Becoming Human Tokyo Stories, which is being written by Saruwati Kazami and drawn by Moto Sumida. I'm butchering people's names, my apologies. The story follows an android idol known as Rihanna, and, like the game before it, explores what happens when these robots gain independent thoughts and feelings. Do we have a date for this thing? The manga will appear in Comic Bridge magazine starting July 22nd, which is already passed. But there's currently no word on whether it will be distributed outside of Japan. So there you go. I would say likely within 4 to 6 months. Next up.
Oh, so this is some. I just learned something new. It's always humbling to learn something new because I didn't even realize this. So I just started Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I am literally on episode 3. Right? That was my alternative to slogging my way through season 3 of Battlestar Galactica. I'm dead set on just trying to get through it and just seeing all the stuff that people raved about when it came to Battlestar Galactica, the new version. So this news story is that Full Metal Alchemist creators' new manga is set to get an English release. Full Metal Alchemist Hiromu Arakawa will see her new series. I did not know the creator was a she. Now titled Daemons of the Shadow Realm, will receive an official English translation. The English paperback release is slated for spring 2023 and will be officially available in English as of July 25th, 2023. I think that's a typo here in the article.
Yeah, there are more mangaka and anime companies that are women. Most notably, Clamp is definitely if you end up reading and or watching anything by Clamp, it's a basically an all women company.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are some. There's more mangaka that are women now than there used to be. So. And yeah, sometimes you don't really get to know because obviously you don't get to hear about this stuff outside of the.
Well, if you're not Googling their names, that's the thing. We have the ability to find out. Sometimes we just don't. But see, so that's why it's humbling to find out this way.
Right, and that's the other thing because before the prevalence of the internet, you would not know this if you somehow found a way to get the stuff.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. Next up though, One Piece anniversary video celebrates 25 years of Luffy's adventures. So yeah, apparently there was on the One Piece YouTube channel released a video in celebration of the manga's 25th anniversary. This article pretty much goes through what that the video goes through, but I will not. So if you're a One Piece fan, chances are you already saw this and you are you've already taken it in. But let's see. There was a special event for One Piece Day, which was around July 27th, which is 22nd, which I believe is when this dropped, and also footage from the upcoming One Piece film Red was also shown around this day, which I'm sure that stuff is still on the channel, and you can check that out if you're so inclined. Next up.
All right, around the time of San Diego Comic-Con, Bandai Namco Entertainment announced that the Dragon Ball The Breakers 8-person online multiplayer game will launch for PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC via Steam on October 14th. In Japan on October 13th, the company streamed a trailer that previews Frieza as a raider. Okay. Yeah. All you gamers out there.
Yeah, I believe there's a closed beta or something going around that I could have got into, but I did not. And apparently the game will link to Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, as all good things do, if you are so inclined with that. There is an upcoming network test on August 5th through 6th, which is actually, yeah, as we're recording, I guess sometime today, or as we're ending this recording, will be sometime today. Junji Ito, wins Eisner for Love Sickness. A manga pioneer Moto Hagio inducted into Hall of Fame. So yeah, Eisner's happened also at San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm just going to go ahead and say that yeah, Junji Ito won for what he won as. I know there are a lot of Junji Ito fans out there known for his suspense and horror manga, and some stuff that has gotten probably translated into anime as well. Was probably excited to hear about that. And I'm going to go ahead and take this next one because since it's related, because the Eisner Awards, like I said, what did happen at the San Diego 2022, and this article with the list of winners for the respective categories, which I won't go into, but
is there anything here that you were glad to see won?
Bitterroot. I saw this when they talked when they said so on online. But yeah, Bitterroot I believe won again if I'm not mistaken. But I haven't looked through the full list of this to see.
Yeah, because that it won for best continuing series. So congratulations to former guest of the show, Sanford Green, and I've met David F. Walker and Chuck Brown in person. I think Roddykat has also. So congratulations to them for winning their Eisner for best continuing series. Let's see here. Wait, was there a co-winner on that? Because there's two things that are bolded here.
I'm not sure. I'm not liking the way this thing is
laid out, right?
Yeah, they don't normally do it like this. I think. Oh, it does say here that the judges were saying like the nominees. Voters' choice winners were Howard Shakin, Kevin Eastman, Larry Hama. David Mazzucchelli won for Batman Year One. Or he didn't win for that, but he was up for something. But yeah, like I said,
I was about to say because I thought maybe you had gone through the list just to see if there's anything cool that we had talked about because I know I saw it on the gram during San Diego Comic-Con that one book that I was reading a limited series won an Eisner, and that being The Good Asian by Pornsak Pichachot and Alexandra Tefenki from Image. That won for best limited series. So congratulations to them.
Right. Oh, the bolded ones are the ones that won, and they're just like I said, they're still kind of laid out like really crazily. But
right, because I see that Bitterroot is listed in bold as well as Something as Killing the Children. So I don't know if they're co-winners.
I guess so. Yeah, that seems weird. Or maybe that was a typo. Don't know. Because I was about to say, oh, Mouse Score won, but that wasn't. They were just in the same category. Now that being said, like I said, Bitterroot was the one that I saw, but I saw that outside of seeing this. So,
and I was about to say, shout out to Andrew Aiden and the late great Congressman John Lewis for winning Best Graphic Memoir for Run Book 1. I haven't bought that yet, so I need to get my hands on that.
Yeah, indeed. The Black Panther Party graphic novel, the graphic history won. I haven't checked that book out yet, but I've been by David F. Walker and Marcus Kwame Anderson. I've been wanting to check that book out, but congrats to them as well. So, anywho's moving right along, but like I said, that the winners are in the article in the show notes.
Yeah, and we'll try to confirm what the deal is with those what appears to have been co-winners. Right. We'll double check that with like the Eisner official website or something. Cinna Grace's YA Superman graphic novel and more from DC Comics are fun for everyone. So this is just a quick article on this panel that happened at San Diego Comic-Con that revolved around cartoonist Cinna Grace's young adult Superman graphic novel titled Superman: The Harvest of Youth. Okay.
Yeah. Also in this panel was an upcoming Blue Beetle graphic novel from Josh Trujillo called Blue Beetle Graduation Day. And in that series, they're going to introduce a new beetle color, a yellow beetle. So I don't know what's up with DC and the color yellow, which granted it's only Yellow Lantern, so I don't know why I'm saying that like that. But nevertheless, there's going to be a new beetle, possibly antagonist. I guess we'll see, or if anything. Actually, we don't know if that Blue Beetle movie is still going to is still out there also because of what's going on. But as we find out stuff, we will let y'all know. Next up.
Sorry, folks. I needed to wet my whistle there. We've been talking a lot. Robin introduces a whole different side of Damian Wayne's girlfriend. So this is spoilers for... Oh, no, this is a preview for Robin number 16. So this is an upcoming issue.
Right.
Where apparently we're going to see something different about this Flatline character. Not trying to spoil everything, but this is a preview for an upcoming issue.
Right. Howling good, some would say. Detective Comics' new creative team headlines DC's new releases. So, I guess this is, at this point this is kind of old news because, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, because Ram V and Raphael Albuquerque has already taken over Detective Comics. And that DC Mac #1 is also came out. So yeah, it's kind of old news, but nevertheless, there you go. Next up,
DC reveals the true reason that, spoiler alert, somebody had to die in the pages of Wonder Woman. So this is last week's?
Yes.
Artemis Wanted #1?
Yes.
Okay. So there is a real reason why Wonder Woman's Hippolyta, spoiler alert, the former queen of the Amazons, had to die in that book. So, you know, this is during the Trial of the Amazons event. I have not been reading this. So,
yeah, we talked about it because I was reading.
Apparently Artemis had to kill her?
Artemis was the one that ended up killing her. I didn't say that part when we were talking about it, but her reasonings never came out during that book. But during this one shot, I guess it did, which still seems kind of weird, but okay, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, DC launches DC.com with new features and content. I didn't know DC.com was gone, but nevertheless, I figured they put it under that unlimited site or whatever the case. But anyway, DC unveiled its updated website with brand new homepage featuring a number of recently added features, including weekly video content, digital experiences, and more. And then it gives the whole spiel for the thing, and of course a merch place and other things. So yeah, the DC Community Hub, which is available for all DC registered DC.com users, will add a new live chat feature, badges, flair options, and avatars, including a Batman fan, first post, top fan, and other things of that nature. Yay. Next up, actually, this is some practical good news for people who are big fans of a certain wacky DC duo. McFarlane Toys has announced new Blue Beetle and Booster Gold figures on its Instagram account. So Blue Beetle and Booster Gold from Blue and Gold are joining the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse lineup. Stay tuned. Pre-orders are coming soon. So apparently it's going to be a 2-pack. Or no, actually, you know, it doesn't say that it's a 2-pack because that would make too much sense. But ultimately, they are coming out, and there are many, many fans of this particular duo of superheroes, or not quite so superheroes. Yeah. Boop. Wakanda Forever pop figures coming from Funko. Pardon. So yeah, we got figures from, well, we got Riri Williams and we got Namor here, as shown in the video version of the program. And we got close-up looks at those, and Shuri, and Tuma, apparently. And there's Baku and Queen Ramonda, some of the ones that we'd already seen already. Or at least, well, excuse me, different versions of others we already seen. And I guess that confirms that that was Namora that we saw, which, again, kind of weird. Anyway, we'll get into that at a later date. Next up.
Alrighty. Hasbro has unveiled new Marvel Legends action figures for the upcoming Black Panther Wakanda Forever film, which gives us a clean look at Namor, played by Tena Huerta, as well as revealing Nakia's, played by Lupita Nyong'o, her underwater armor. So Roddykat has this up, and that's pretty cool. That it's definitely a spoiler because we definitely have a hint now of where this story might be taking us. Obviously, with Namor being involved, something is going to happen underwater, and the Wakandans are probably going to have to go down there. But now we have an idea of what that underwater suit is going to look like.
Yep.
And good on Hasbro for reissuing Okoye, who was originally a Build-A-Figure.
Right. And I don't know if you're looking at this. Is this a new sculpt, or is it the same one?
It might be on a new buck. A new body figure with the same paint.
Gotcha.
I think what's happened is that they are reissuing some figures on new body molds. They're called bucks.
Right.
I did not know this. I am unfamiliar with. I'm a collector, not necessarily one of the hyper collectors. And so, having followed some people on Instagram, I've learned that the raw plastic figure that's molded into the figures that we know and love are called bucks. So like the body style and whatnot is like a buck that they reuse for however many characters.
Interesting. Okay. So worth noting as I'm thumbing through these pictures, there's a Everett K. Ross, there's a Koye, there's a Hetat Zerez, and the Build-A-Figure is a Tuma. It's it's a classic Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
With the cape. Nice. And there's the Build-A-Figure.
Yeah,
there you go. Next up.
Yeah, I mean, that's if that was enough for me to collect that, then but I've got, I definitely lean towards the comic book side, folks. You've heard me say it before. I definitely lean more towards the comic book versions of these figures.
Right.
So I'm not necessarily like trying to kill myself to get the MCU versions.
Right.
All right, next up.
But that Black Panther. Well, I guess technically that Black Panther one would be the comic version, even though it's not the current.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's why that's the only tempting one.
Right. Yeah, I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Next
up. Let's see here. No, you have this one because I did the reveal, the figure reveal.
Tatiana Maslany's She-Hulk gets her first action figure. This was revealed at Comic-Con. And let's see, this is in the What If Infinite Ultron line, which also includes Moon Knight's Mr. Knight, Sharon Carter, Miss Marvel, and Hawkeye and Kate Bishop. Let's see, the figure will be available for pre-order later this year, and there is if you're watching the video version, there is the picture of the figure right there, which looks all right.
I like the face sculpt. I think that's a great use of the digital sculpting process, because that really does look like what the character looks like on screen.
Right. Presumably it's that same process that they're using that they're letting people do their own thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I meant to mention that with the Nakia figure from that last article, which was a pretty good likeness for Lupita Nyong'o. So cool. Next up,
Marvel Legends Venom Sibling Multi-Pack drops as an exclusive to Amazon, and it is live. The price for these 3 figures is a whopping $77.99. You can reserve one now if you can. It's expected to ship out in December. I don't know if it's sold out. I am not that interested in this. The cool thing about this is that the Venom heads are actually kind of cool. The Eddie Brock with like the half masked, half venomized, and that full Venom head is actually pretty cool. But I don't really care about Riot and Agony.
Right.
But there are some people who are just dead set on getting all the symbiotes all the time.
Yeah, those people are.
It's what it is.
Yeah. All right, here's some news we alluded to earlier. Matter of fact, I'm going to take this one and the next one since they're related. Marvel's Web Chomping Spider-Rex figure combines Spider-Man with a dinosaur. If that wasn't clear. So yeah, they had already made a figure off of that that new Spider character from this week's Edge of Spider-Verse.
Or they made a figure before they wrote that story.
Oh, I suspect, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect that was definitely the case. But yeah, it's available to order. It's $44.99. You have at that. That's all I can say. If you're a fan. And relatedly, there are Spider-X and Venomosaurus inflatable costumes which are on sale, because y'all know those dinosaur costumes have been big things in the last few years. So I guess good on Marvel for trying to get into the zeitgeist of that. They might be a little late for that, I think, but hey, who am I to say? These are $99.99. Looks like a piece. So yeah, like I said, there's a Venom version and there's the Spider-X version for your perusal, just in time for Halloween or before. Next up,
Marvel teases the Fantastic Four relaunch once Dan Slott's run ends with an unnamed creative team. So this announcement was made during the Next Big Thing panel at San Diego Comic-Con. The publisher released an image of a compass with the Fantastic Four's logo in the center, the word writer at the top, and artist at the bottom, while November 2022 sits below. Okay. Speaking at the San Diego, Marvel Comics editor-in-chief C.B. Cebulski and David Pepose will be taking over the Fantastic Four series for 2 issues before the title relaunches later this year. Okay, so I guess those are the interim. They're covering the interim period between Slott's run and this relaunch.
right?
So that there will be Fantastic Four issues covering those 2 months in between.
Right. But it's also going to be relaunched. So
Relaunched anyway, exactly.
Which is weird. So yeah, at this point, we still don't know who the creative team is. There was another article that if it wasn't dated differently would have been an interesting proposition, but also that writer had already had his turn on Fantastic Four, so that's not the case. Next up, though, Christopher Cantwell's Iron Man run ends in November with Iron Man 650. So yeah, this current run of Iron Man is going to end in a couple of months. We just found this out a couple of weeks ago, apparently, which ended up to being news to us. But hey, all the good things, right? And on that note, next up,
Marvel announces Iron Man Day in November. So with number 25 of this run releasing in November, we see Tony Stark get his own celebratory day just in time for the character's 650th issue. So this was announced at Marvel Comics' Next Big Thing, as I was talking about earlier. Let's see. Iron Man number 25 will have New York City celebrating Iron Man Day. Okay.
Sure. That's what the city needed. Let me shut up. Anyway, Marvel enlists Ghost Rider in the most shocking team yet. This is for the upcoming Ghost Rider number 7, in which apparently Johnny Blaze is going to be a Fed. That's all I'll say. Next up.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. In issue 7.
All right. Jonathan Hickman returns to Marvel for a 2023 mystery title. The teaser is what happens when the powers that be meet the natural order of things. Hickman and Skeety, as in Valerio Skeety, 2023. The writer describes the new series as Sandman for the Marvel Universe, as quoted by CBR. According to Hickman, he's been working on the title for 3 years, predating his exit from the publisher's X-Men line as its so-called head of X writer. Okay.
I believe it. that sounds like a Hickman thing to do.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
And
we're
I
gonna
didn't
get
even
some-
realize that he had left as head of X-Rider.
Right, he's still credited because because you remember we had that story where it was like he was going to end it before now, but people had stuff they wanted to do, but he's still credited as the head of the thing because of how
Right, but now
shepherded it
we know for sure that he's not kind of actively overseeing the Krakoan corner of the Marvel universe because he's got his own thing going on now.
Right. So what that is, we don't know yet. So I don't know. I have no idea what this means. Because there's a space background, I guess it's something cosmic.
Maybe.
Maybe it's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Maybe.
But I guess we'll find out in the next few months. Next up. Marvel denies rigging X-Men fan vote over controversial new member. I did not know this was a thing. So this is the only reason why this article
There's a controversial new member?
Well, yeah, Firestar apparently is controversial according to this article.
Why?
According to this article.
Silliness.
So apparently, while the let's see, oh, okay. While the fan vote options for this year's X-Men election featured little-known mutants like Micromax and Avalanche. The addition of Firestar into the vote was still a surprise for many since she was often considered to be explicably not a member of the X community. Let's see. It says here Angelica Jones is deliberately not joined the mutant nation of Krakoa. So even though her addition to the team may come as a surprise, it will also lead to a ton of interesting drama and intrigue, according to the article once again. This is a speculation piece. I don't know if it has legs or not, but I guess they saw something that we don't. But I don't. So, but yeah, apparently, let me see. There was an interview with AIPT with Jordan White that assured fans that the vote was 100% genuine. Because I guess somebody I guess maybe people were out there talking about shenanigans with this pick.
I guess.
Or mad that their pick wasn't put in as opposed to Firestar?
I guess.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, so. And there's a quote from Jordan, which I won't go into. Oh, wait, no, actually, I will a little bit. Hold on. So Firestar, obviously, is on the team because you chose her, like you literally voted for her. But I know a lot of fans are very angry that she was in the running. And I'll leave it there because the rest of the quote was like, it goes on from there. Interesting. Weird. Like I said, I didn't know that there was that much hubbub. But then again, I'm not surprised because we are talking about fans here.
It's funny.
Next up,
Jason Aaron's Avengers era will conclude with everyone assembling, like taking what Hickman did and just turning it up a notch.
everyone.
Everyone. This isn't even a case of like Simpsons did it, Hickman did it. No, we're doing multiversal Avengers assembling too, not just whoever's in the 616. So Earth's Mightiest Heroes are assembling for a new Avengers Assemble Alpha one-shot, which will serve as the capstone to Jason Aaron's era on Marvel's Avengers. This was again announced at the Marvel Comics Next Big Thing panel at San Diego. And it will bring 3 different teams of Avengers together all in one place. So this is going to be written by Aaron and features art by Brian Hitch. Okay.
Yeah. If you gotta go with a smile. Or
yeah, you know what? It's gonna unite the Avengers, Avengers Forever, and Avengers of 1 million BC.
Which,
okay,
again, like I said, given that they've how much built up and how much time they put into those people and into those groups, I would expect nothing less. Speaking of events, Judgment Day finale promises major Marvel Universe changes. Sure. Judgment Day Omega is approaching and is going to shake up the Marvel Universe to its core, according to this article. With the end of the war between the Avengers, X-Men, and the Eternals coming up in just a few short months, Marvel has begun teasing what the aftermath will look like. with AXE Judgment Day Omega #1 already promising to change the Eternals. Wait. Already promises to change the Eternals world upside down as they discover, that sentence sounded weird, discover what is truly eternal. For now, this doesn't provide any details of where this event will leave the X-Men or Earth's Mightiest Heroes in its wake, nor will it be left of them. What will be what's left of them once the dust has settled. So, we'll see, I guess. So this was the thing we talked about, though. It was like, is this something that's gonna actually come out of this event? You know. So we'll see. Next up,
Marvel assembles Spider-Man, Venom, X-Men, and more for a new crossover series called Dark Web. That's going to launch in November. It's our next event.
Mm-hmm.
So Spider-Man, Venom, Black Cat, and assortment of X-Men characters and more are assembling together for this new series. This was again announced at Marvel Comics' The Next Big Thing panel at San Diego. And they had new promotional artwork for the upcoming series. It's written by Zeb Wells with promotional artwork by Ryan Stegman and a variant cover by Peach Momoko. Let's see. Prelude issues to the crossover series will begin releasing in November. Okay. So I guess that's something for us to kind of look forward to.
I guess. I mean, one we already got. Well, we got this technically line-wide-ish event with Judgment Day. It's not necessarily line-wide, but it's crossing over in a lot of stuff. We already got Spider-Verse coming.
Right, and we're also going to get the return of Ben Reilly, now known as Chasm.
Who cares?
Right, and if you recall, during the Free Comic Book Day book, we also get Chasm working with the Goblin Queen, so that's where the X-Men stuff comes in.
Right. So, wait. I should go back and read that. Anyway, but yeah, Dark Web, that's the thing that's coming. It's another event. All I was going to say is, boy, I remember when Marvel said they weren't going to do so many events, but they meant line-wide events and not the smaller smaller sectional events, which they're going doubling down on, which is still kind of annoying. But hey, it is what it is. Next up.
We only annoyed by it because we actually, have the ability to read it. If we were voting with our dollars, we wouldn't be so annoyed by it. To be honest.
Yeah, you're right.
The problem is we have a pretty diverse reading list, so we tend to delve into the Spidey corner, and then this is actually forcing us to read a little bit of X stuff too. If let's say you're not familiar with the X stuff, you're like, well, who's this Goblin Queen character?
Right.
Right,
because I was thinking, wait, the Goblin Queen, was that the one Goblin from? I was thinking it was that character from Spencer's run that got introduced near the end, but I know it's Madeline Pryor.
It's Madeline Pryor, right?
So maybe it could be both. Who knows? Either way, next up, is this you or is it me?
No, it's you.
Marvel introduces Gold Goblin, a Spider-Man villain starring in his own series. So apparently, Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin, is going to try to reinvent himself and become the Gold Goblin. And I guess this is going to come off of something upcoming in Amazing Spider-Man. Because we know Peters is supposed to be working for Osborn at some point. We know that, well, I might as well go ahead and bring up this next article. Hobgoblin's also coming back into the fold in issue 11. So by issue 13, I guess this is when we're going to see the birth of the Gold Goblin. How long it lasts? Who's to say? Next up.
Marvel announces a new Cold War Captain America event. So the two Captains America will reunite for a new Cold War crossover event launching in 2023. It's going to bring Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson back together for a new mission. The Secret Origin of Steve Shield, The Revenge of White Wolf and Crossbones, and The Return of Nomad. But which one? Marvel teased of the event at San Diego Comic-Con. Okay.
Which one indeed? Let's see. Marvel finally acknowledges America Chavez's huge origin retcon. So this is spoilers for Marvel Voices Infinity Comic number 8, it seems.
What did they do?
Huh?
What did they do?
I guess. So wait. So I guess this is probably addressing that stuff from that last America Chavez miniseries, where they basically changed her power set a little bit. They basically kind of powered her down some, and changed her origin to not being from the Utopia parallel, and also giving her a sister.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So I guess this Infinity comic is addressing that in some way. I meant to actually read that before this, but I did not. So we'll just leave it at that, just in case anybody hadn't read it and want to go in unspoiled. Next up.
In sad news, Marvel Comics writer Ron Zimmerman has passed away at a pretty young age of 64. Ron Zimmerman was a writer, film, and television producer and stand-up comic who wrote the series Spider-Man Get Kraven, in addition to the Ultimate Adventure series. He also worked on The Punisher, Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man. He was best known for that Rawhide Kid comic. According to a report from Deadline, Zimmerman passed away on July 28th after a battle with cancer.
Fuck cancer.
Yep.
Yeah, apparently this dude was in a lot of places. He's done some producing.
He dated Cher.
Yeah,
back in 2010. Holy cow!
I was gonna get to that.
Holy cow! I was just scrolling. I was like, what?
Yeah, apparently he wrote for My Wife and Kids and Hard Knocks and Charles in Charge and John Cat, and we're not going to talk about the other Kramer show. He also wrote Hawk and Dove for Justice League. And episode of The Simpsons. Like I said, dude did a lot of stuff. Seventh Heaven, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the aforementioned dating Cher.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Anyway, next up. X-Men's Pepe Larraz joins Mark Millar for new series Big Game. I saw Mark Millar was like, yeah, I got some announcements coming up on Thursday that's gonna shake up the big two, and I guess this is part one of the two that was supposed to be that. But details are limited at this time. Millar World says Big Game is rumored to be a crossover between many, if not all, of the Millar World franchises. The series will launch in spring 2023. Next up.
Mark Millar's Nemesis returns with Batman's Jorge Jimenez on art. Wow. So this is a limited series that first launched in 2010, and it will return with the Batman artist, the current Batman artist, and the series is going to drop in January of 2023. Yeah. Oh, interesting. I wonder if Jimenez is going to be able to maintain his work on Batman, or if he's going to take some time just to do Nemesis Reloaded.
Yeah, good question.
He's been on Batman for a while. He was on it, during Tinian.
Right.
So maybe he's going to step away to do this as a new project.
Right. That seems more likely than trying to juggle the two. But who knows? Maybe he could do it.
Yeah, exactly. Who knows?
Yeah. Last but not least, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers announces a new Recharged era. So, Boom Studios has officially announced a new creative team that will take over on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers as the title entered its new Recharged era with issue 101, which I believe is like doing this like road to 100 thing now or something. But Mighty Morphin Power Rangers 101 is set to hit comic book shops in October, and I guess this is legacy numbering because I believe the one that came out this week is 17, or or something around about that. So yeah, this must be legacy numbering. Either way, Melissa Flores and artist Simona Di Giafelici, I apologize for butchering your name, are taking the reins. And then it goes into what the issue is about. So that is the new creative team for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Charged at 100. That's the current banner that they got going on. And with that, folks, that's the end of the news. Got one more ad read. See if we played.
And before I hit the ad read, I wanted to confirm, because I consulted another website, that there was in fact a tie between Bitterroot and Something is Killing the Children for the best continuing series Eisner. So that was in fact true on that original website that we were using. It just wasn't clearly indicated.
Right. Okay.
So there was in fact a tie. So good for them.
Yeah.
Congratulations to all the Eisner winners, especially the ones that we were rooting for. Also up for that continuing series was Immortal Hulk. Right. So, you know, if Al Ewing had won, we would have been happy also.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, in any event, our last ad is for Wink, the personalized wine club. Wink is a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to Cabernet to Torronté, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Have you ever tried an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your taste and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through CSPN. Do it today.
And that, folks, is the end of the show. You know, I said at the beginning of the show that we're a week away from She-Hulk. We're 2 weeks away. My mistake. I forgot what day it was. Ha. But nevertheless, 2 weeks away. We're still working on that. It'll happen. You'll hear from us. That being the case, I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_7 on Twitter and Instagram. PC_Dirt on Instagram. Well, you probably find him on Instagram as that. But on Twitter, you can find him at PC_Dirt. You can also find him at Pop Culture Net on Twitter. You can also find him at popculturenet.com and his umbrella sites therein. Tim, DOGD98 on Twitter. You can also find him at The Kliq Nation on Twitter, but you can also find him at the CB Chron, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. You can also find him at comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off. And you can find us, this here Comic Book Chronicles, at the Cold Slither Podcast Network. That's cspn.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast perusal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Cold Slither Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to hit like and subscribe. Leave us 5-star reviews. Thank you for your time.
Hit it. You can also find us at recording every Thursday night, 9:30-ish p.m. on twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles and youtube.com/The Kliq Nation.
Again, click like and subscribe and click the notification button so you know when we're on.
Yeah, if we can get to 50 followers on Twitch, we can upload some episodes that we have been talking about that we've done in the past that we cannot get up without some finagling. But hey, help us out. Nevertheless, we will be back next Thursday, folks, with another show. I don't think we got anything going on. Maybe we'll talk about Paper Girls if we
if we get that in, right? If we get the 8 episodes in, maybe we'll talk about. Even if we're just talking about the first 4 or 5, we'll speak in broad strokes and not spoil anything.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that, folks. And with that, this has been Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace, one. And with all that news that came out of San Diego Comic-Con.